Black technology, the super empire that spans two worlds. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 1, The Setting of Food Expensive and Scarce in the Blue Planet World. In the setting of the Blue Star World, the level of science and technology is far ahead of the Earth. The scarcity and high cost of food on Blue Star are not simply technical problems, but the scarcity artificially created by the ruling class of Blue Star in order to widen the material gap between the upper and lower classes. The reason why the rulers do this can be seen in Chapter 33 of the text, which will not be expanded here. The rulers of Blue Star cruelly exploit the lower classes, so some people rise up to resist and rebel against a revolution. Where there is oppression, there is resistance. This is a plot branch of the Blue Star world. In the setting, there are uprisings, revolutions, wars, and troubled times on Blue Star, so there must be three no-cares and they will not be strictly managed. Such a setting can provide great convenience for the protagonist to move food to Blue Star on a large scale in the future. After all, no one will care so much in troubled times, and the protagonist can fish in troubled waters. In the setting of the Blue Star world, the level of science and technology is far superior to that of the Earth. As an Earthling, the protagonist needs to have his own exclusive advantages on Blue Star, which can also be understood as the protagonist's golden finger in the Blue Star world. The author sets the problem from the food level. The protagonist can easily obtain a large amount of cheap food on Earth, while food on Blue Star is scarce and expensive, which becomes the protagonist's golden finger and asymmetric advantage on Blue Star. However, this setting has derived a new logical bug that needs to be solved. The Blue Star world is set to be far more technologically advanced than the Earth. In theory, there should be no problem of food scarcity and expensiveness. After all, the Blue Star world has mastered the technology of artificial starch synthesis. So there is the above setting. It is the rulers of Blue Star who deliberately create food scarcity for vested interests and exploitation of the lower classes. In this way, it can be self-consistent and logically self-consistent. Insisting that this is unreasonable and illogical is pure arguing and making trouble. In the real world, the food produced by humans has long been able to meet the needs of the global population, but hundreds of millions of people are still facing famine. Some people may immediately wonder why the rulers of Blue Star do this. What is the reason for them to artificially create scarcity? The space is limited and I will not expand here. The answer is in the text of Chapter 33, and the detailed settings will be gradually improved in subsequent updates. In general, because the Blue Star world is an imaginary world, and the main plot is still on the Earth side, the Blue Star world is a branch and auxiliary plot. The length of the previous chapters is limited. Spending a large amount of space in the early stage to focus on introducing the background of the Blue Star world will drag the plot rhythm too much. Readers with less patience will directly skip it, and the probability of the new book's performance will soar. The early chapters are still mainly to advance the plot. The world background and worldview of the Blue Star will be gradually improved in subsequent updates. Don't rush to draw conclusions. For example, the setting of the Blue Star technology is highly developed but the food is scarce and expensive. The author saw that someone glanced at the comment area or read it quickly without seeing it, and then posted a post without saying a word to draw conclusions. The logic is stupid, not reasonable at all, and people are treated as fools. The author also lives in Bungbu, so he had to write this setting overview and put it in the work related. Sometimes it is quite helpless. If you speed up the pace all the way from the beginning, without foreshadowing, the whole book will collapse or have a bad ending before the middle stage. To write a novel that does not collapse, you must spend a certain amount of space to foreshadow, but readers do not have much patience, and then abandon the book, and then the performance is cold. The author will try to find a suitable balance point. Don't worry about this book, it will be finished slowly. Although the performance of the book is average, it is higher than the author's psychological expectation. This book mainly writes about commercial black technology. The main line is on the Earth, and the Blue Star is the straight line and plays the role of a golden finger for the protagonist. When this book is finished, the background of the world of the Blue Star will also be perfected. At that time, I will also write a side story for the Blue Star world, or I will ask for everyone's opinions at that time and open a new book to write the story of another protagonist growing up in the Blue Star world. Chapter 2, First arrival at Blue Star World. Why are the food products related to eating in this world so expensive? Xiao Yu was shocked. At this moment, he was in a small town market called Qingyang. But this is not the Earth, but an unknown planet world called Blue Star. 2.5 hours ago, Xiao Yu accidentally obtained a strange bracelet called Transmission Star Ring, which can be used to freely shuttle between the two worlds of Earth and Blue Star. Xiao Yu first arrived at Blue Star and wandered around this town. Blue Star also has human civilization, and even uses the same writing and language. This made Xiao Yu initially judge that it might be another Earth in the multiverse world, but this world is called Blue Star. But Blue Star and Earth are not completely mirrored parallel worlds. The human technology level of the Blue Star world is obviously more advanced than that of the Earth. Xiao Yu estimated that it is at least 500 years ahead of the Earth, at least breaking through the level of first-level civilization, while the current technological level of the Earth is at best 0.7 level. Xiao Yu, the alien, silently wandered around the market and observed for a while. He initially learned that the currency used here was called Xingyuan. By comparing the various products sold in the market, Xiao Yu had a preliminary judgment on the purchasing power of Xingyuan currency. 1 Xingyuan is equivalent to about 1.5 yuan on Earth. Xiao Yu wandered around for a long time and found that the price inversion phenomenon here was very serious. Food is very expensive, especially fresh fruits and vegetables are simply luxury goods, while other daily necessities, industrial goods, etc. are very cheap. In fact, the high price of food is a man-made scarcity, because hunger can bring people the most primitive fear. The level of science and technology and productivity in the Blue Star world far exceeds that of the Earth world. However, the advanced scientific and technological productivity is not only not used to benefit all living beings, but is exploited by the ruling elites of the Blue Star using advanced scientific and technological advantages. They use gene editing technology to block the reproductive ability of fresh fruits and vegetables sold in the circulation market, resulting in the inability to breed the next generation. The seeds contained in the fruits and vegetables that people buy back are useless, even if they are willing to take the risk of planting them privately. Reproductive isolation is blocked and they cannot grow at all, which makes all kinds of food achieve absolute monopoly. The lower class beings in the world of Blue Star can only rely on artificially synthesized starch to barely get enough food and clothing. They are reluctant to eat expensive fresh fruits, vegetables and meat a few times a year, and only indulge themselves on important commemorative days. In order to prevent the lower class beings from rising up, the ruling elites of Blue Star precisely control the temperature, so that the lower class beings are at the poverty line, not starving to death, but definitely not eating well, and they must work non-stop. If they stop, they will be hungry, so they cannot stop. If they stop, how can the elites exploit them? Who will contribute and maintain their endless wealth and glory? On the one hand, the ruling elites of Blue Star create suffering to widen the material gap between the upper and lower classes, tempting the lower class beings to desire class crossing. On the other hand, they open a so-called upward channel in a high-sounding manner, and let a few obedient and willing to kneel and beg for mercy come up, in order to imply that some people have really changed their fate and achieved class transition through their own efforts. If you don't come up, it's because you haven't worked hard enough. It doesn't matter. You keep working hard and don't give up. The upward channel will always be open for you. At this moment, Xiao Yu, who had just arrived at Blue Star, had a very limited understanding of this world. He couldn't help but secretly complain when he saw the serious inverted prices. It's too outrageous. 100 grams of watermelon sells for 300 star yuan, 100 grams of banana sells for 280 star yuan, but a standard wearable smart holographic bracelet sells for only 299 star yuan, and a floating motorcycle sells for only 2000 star yuan. If it is roughly converted into RMB at a ratio of 1 to 1.5, it is equivalent to 1 jin of watermelon selling for 2,250 yuan and 1 jin of banana selling for 2,210 yuan. On Earth, the price of a jin of watermelon is currently less than 2 yuan, and the wholesale purchase price at the place of origin is even a few cents per jin. In Xiao Yu's eyes, the smart holographic bracelet is a black technology product, but it is so cheap relative to the price of food. People in the Blue Star world have a holographic bracelet in their hands. This is a mobile communication device, which is equivalent to a smartphone on Earth. Xiao Yu couldn't understand why fruits, vegetables and meat, which were readily available on Earth, became so expensive on the Blue Star world. How could the lower-class natives survive with such expensive food? However, he didn't think too much about it. Xiao Yu was very excited because he realized that he had the ability to travel freely between Earth and Blue Star, which could solve the crisis his company was facing. If I get some fruits, grains and other products from Earth and sell them to Blue Star to cash in Star Yuan, and then use Star Yuan to purchase high-tech products here and sell them back to Earth, Prism Technology will be able to easily get rid of the shackles of capital. Xiao Yu thought about it and became more and more excited. Prism Technology is a high-tech company founded by Xiao Yu. He showed an outstanding talent for technology development at a young age and founded this company at the age of 22. In the early stage, it started as a precision component and became a precision component supplier for mobile phone manufacturers. With the development of the company, its business scope has gradually expanded to semiconductor displays, new materials, micro-nano-optical devices, robots and automation equipment. In order to obtain sufficient financial support for research and development in the entrepreneurial stage, Xiao Yu also sought financing support everywhere like most entrepreneurs. He also successfully gained the favor of capital, but the investor asked Xiao Yu to sign a debt agreement, otherwise he would not invest money. The agreement required Prism Technology to go public within the next 5 years after the investment. For capital, going public can maximize the benefits. In addition, the agreement also requires that after Prism Technology successfully goes public, the market value will reach 26.5 billion within the next 3 years. Xiao Yu signed the agreement because he had confidence in himself and the company. 3 years later, when Xiao Yu was 25 years old, Prism Technology successfully went public on the growth enterprise market of the A-share market through a backdoor listing. It was rare to have such an achievement at this age, and it was also very popular for a while. But the good times did not last long. 1.5 years after the company went public, the market value soared to 15.5 billion and then took a sharp turn. The company itself had no problems, and its performance was gradually improving, but the stock price continued to fall. Xiao Yu initially believed that the rise and fall of stock prices were normal market fluctuations, but later gradually realized that it was maliciously shorted by someone. This year, Xiao Yu finally realized that when the financing was raised 6 years ago, the investors had already set up a trap with bad intentions. At that time, Xiao Yu was only 22 years old. On the one hand, he was too young and inexperienced. Secondly, he almost put all his thoughts on technology research and development and product polishing at that time, and did not realize that the capital was secretly setting up a trap for him. There is still about half a year left before the deadline for the bet, but the current market value of Prism Technology is only 3.7 billion, which is far from the target market value of 26.5 billion to complete the bet agreement. It will take more than 6 times the surge to achieve it, which is almost impossible to achieve. Xiao Yu had already given up hope and was even planning for the worst. But today, he accidentally obtained the transmission star ring and came to the Blue Star world. Although he could not understand his own adventure, the fact made him irrefutable that he was now in the Blue Star world. The most important thing is that Xiao Yu has basically determined that the level of human technology in the Blue Star world is far superior to that of the Earth by hundreds of years, and he can also use the transmission star ring to shuttle back and forth between the two worlds. It is entirely possible to bring the black technology from Blue Star to Earth. This incredible advantage has made Xiao Yu regain his confidence, and he is more confident than ever before. At this moment, Xiao Yu is thinking about how to take revenge on the capital that set up the trap to trap him. If he doesn't get this place back, he can't swallow this breath, his thoughts are not clear, and he even feels sorry for the incredible adventure of obtaining the teleportation star ring. Relying on your trust in you back then, you dug pits and buried mines for me, and wanted to eat me up and kick me out. This time, I will also make you lose a lot of money and get out of the game. Xiao Yu has made up his mind to set up the trap for the other party and fight with the capital. Xiao Yu temporarily put away these thoughts, looked around the market in front of him and said to himself, let's find a way to get some Star Yuan first. We can't use our MB here on Blue Star. He is also a newcomer to the Blue Star world, and currently doesn't know much about the situation in this world. The local natives speak the same language as Xiao Yu, use the same characters, and even have the same race and skin color. This eliminates the obstacles to communication and greatly reduces the cost of Xiao Yu's understanding and quiet integration into this world. Obviously, Xiao Yu also knew that his understanding of Blue Star was not even the tip of the iceberg, but he was not in a hurry. He would slowly understand and figure it out. With an idea and a decision in mind, Xiao Yu walked straight to the luxurious and exquisite high-end fruit shop in front of him. Seeing the clerk walking towards him, Xiao Yu asked first, "Hello, do you buy fruits here, sir? Do you have fruits for sale?" the clerk asked. Xiao Yu nodded, and he had organized his words in his mind and said, "I have a batch of goods, watermelons. If your store is interested, we can cooperate." He planned to go back to Earth to buy some watermelons. There are plenty of them in the supermarket. When the clerk heard this and saw that Xiao Yu was not joking, he replied, "Please wait a moment, I will talk to the boss." "By the way, sir, what is your last name?" Xiao Yu politely replied, "No need to be surnamed Xiao." The clerk smiled and said, "Okay, Mr. Xiao, please wait a moment." As the clerk went to ask his boss, Xiao Yu was also thinking in his mind and decided to get only 20 to 30 kilograms first, not too much, and cash out tens of thousands of star yuan first. Xiao Yu didn't know why the prices of fruits, vegetables and other foods on Blue Star were so expensive, but this was a good thing for him, because fruits, vegetables and other foods could be easily obtained in large quantities on Earth. After waiting for a while, Xiao Yu saw a middle-aged man walking towards him. He should be the owner of this store. The middle-aged man smiled and stretched out his hand to signal, "Mr. Xiao, please move over to discuss in detail." Chapter 3, Not bad, this melon is of excellent quality. Xiao Yu and the other party entered a reception room. The middle-aged man came straight to the point and said, "My last name is Liu. I heard from my employees that Mr. Xiao has a batch of watermelons to sell. How much is it?" Hearing this, Xiao Yu smiled and replied calmly, "Not much, about 500 kilograms, in fact, he only planned to sell 20 to 30 kilograms, but he said so deliberately." Xiao Yu knew very well that he was in a legal household in Blue Star and had no legal identity in this world, so he could only settle in cash. The Star Yuan currency happened to have paper cash. He had seen some people using cash to trade in this trading market before, but more than 90% of people paid online. If cash is accepted, there will be another problem. Xiao Yu cannot distinguish the authenticity of the Star Yuan banknotes. Even if he really holds it in his hand, he cannot confirm it because he does not know what the real Star Yuan currency looks like. If the owner of this store makes some counterfeit money, he will also be unable to distinguish it. At that time, if you use counterfeit money without knowing it, and then get caught and questioned by law enforcement officers, it will be troublesome. In order to ensure that the cash and banknotes in hand are real, Xiao Yu's method is to deliberately say that there are several hundred kilograms of goods, and then bring 20 to 30 kilograms to let the other party inspect the goods. If Boss Liu wants to receive the hundreds of kilograms of goods at the back, he will definitely not trade for counterfeit money for these 20 to 30 kilograms of goods. Xiao Yu is now much more mature and stable, no longer the fledgling boy 6 years ago. He has become more cautious and steady in everything. At this moment, when Boss Liu heard Xiao Yu say that he had 500 kilograms of watermelons, he couldn't help but be surprised. "What, 500 kilograms? Do you really have so much?" Xiao Yu smiled confidently and said, "Of course, I wonder if Boss Liu is interested in purchasing it." "Yes, of course," Boss Liu replied at the speed of light with an affirmative tone, and then asked curiously, "But how come you have so much goods, Mr. Xiao?" Boss Liu suddenly stopped talking and added, "I'm very sorry, I almost forgot the rules of the industry. A hero doesn't ask where he comes from, and a good product doesn't ask where it comes from. Sorry. Oh." Xiao Yu was slightly stunned. There is actually such a rule? Could this business be risky? But after thinking about it, Xiao Yu seemed to understand that he was habitually using the thinking of the Earth's environment to judge things on the blue planet, which was definitely not applicable. Since fruits, vegetables and grains are scarce and expensive on Blue Star, the profits must be very high or even huge. A holographic bracelet costs 299 star yuan, but 100 grams of watermelon can be sold at an outrageous price of 300 star yuan. The profits are definitely huge, and there must be a lot of water in it. Xiao Yu secretly thought that Boss Liu probably thought that he got this batch of goods from some gray channel and was eager to cash out in his store. However, Xiao Yu did not point it out. "Okay, I will ask someone to bring 2 watermelons to Boss Liu for you to take a look first." Boss Liu nodded readily and said with a smile, "No problem." The two parties reached an agreement, and Xiao Yu exchanged a few polite words with the other party and said goodbye. After leaving the store, he deliberately wandered around for a while to confirm that he was not followed by anyone. Xiao Yu entered the public toilet of this trading market and came to the innermost toilet. After confirming again that there was no one in the toilets next to him, Xiao Yu raised his wrist. He now knew how to use the teleportation star ring. At this moment, a holographic projection panel appeared on the star ring on his wrist. Xiao Yu selected the teleportation coordinates on the panel, which turned out to be the bedroom of his home on Earth. The teleportation of the star ring has two characteristics or limitations. One is that it must be a place that Xiao Yu has been to. The star ring will record it and mark it and light it up to include it in the historical coordinates. In the future, it can be directly teleported to a fixed point. If there is no mark to light up a place that has not been visited, it cannot be directly teleported. The other is that cross-border teleportation can only be performed between any two coordinate points between the Earth and the blue star, and it cannot be performed between any two coordinate positions on the Earth or the blue star. For example, it is impossible to teleport from Asia to America on Earth, because both coordinate points are on Earth, and the same is true for blue star. This can actually be a bug. For example, if a person in Asia wants to go to America, he must first teleport from Asia to blue star, and then teleport from blue star to America. Of course, the premise is that Xiao Yu must first go to America to light up the coordinates. However, Xiao Yu would not bother with this bug unless it was necessary. If he appeared in America from Asia all of a sudden, it would be troublesome if he accidentally left traces and was discovered to have appeared in two places in such a short time, which could not be explained by the physical logic of the Earth. If he was targeted and investigated, the secret of the teleportation ring might be exposed. At this time, Xiao Yu confirmed the specific transmission coordinates, and the holographic projection showed a virtual ring structure. He grabbed the virtual ring structure with his other hand and threw it forward. As the virtual ring structure was thrown out, it expanded proportionally and gradually became real. The space inside the ring structure was distorted, and then a clear and familiar scene appeared. Xiao Yu saw the bedroom of his home on Earth. Without much hesitation, he crossed the teleportation star gate directly and returned to the bedroom of his villa on Earth. Then he operated to close it on the star ring holographic projection panel. The teleportation star gate quickly shrank proportionally, became smaller, and shrank to a point and disappeared directly, and the space returned to its original state. Go to the supermarket to buy 2 watermelons. Xiao Yu thought about it and decided to buy them himself. So he went out and went straight to the nearby supermarket to buy 2 watermelons to sell to Blue Star to cash out some star yuan. On Earth, the city where Xiao Yu currently lives is called Linsao City. The current market price of watermelons in the city is 1.63 yuan per caddy. Xiao Yu chose 2 large watermelons in the supermarket, one weighing 6.3 kilograms and the other 5.7 kilograms, a total of 12 kilograms, or 24 caddies, and spent a total of about 39 yuan. Xiao Yu carried the 2 large watermelons back home, and then changed to a bag without the unique logo trademark on Earth to pack them. After finishing these, he immediately opened the teleportation star gate again, and Xiao Yu came to the Blue Star world again with 2 watermelons. The teleportation point was the public toilet in the Qingyang town trading market. Xiao Yu came out of the toilet, then walked out of the toilet as if nothing had happened, and went straight to the fruit sales store. After a while, Xiao Yu came to this exquisitely decorated high-end fruit store and asked the clerk to notify his boss. Boss Liu was also quite surprised to learn that Xiao Yu came so quickly. I asked someone to bring 2 melons. Boss Liu, are you satisfied with them? Xiao Yu smiled when he saw Boss Liu coming out. There were no other customers in the store at this time. Boss Liu was also surprised to see Xiao Yu carrying 2 such large melons, and then he took them carefully. When Xiao Yu saw Boss Liu like this, he thought that he had spent less than 40 yuan on these 2 melons on Earth, and suddenly he felt a sense of contrast and joy. However, he managed his expression very well, and outsiders could not see his inner thoughts at the moment. This is Blue Star. Fruits, vegetables, meat and grains are expensive luxury goods in this world. Xiao Yu can understand why Boss Liu is so cautious. After a while, Boss Liu asked the store staff to bring an instrument that Xiao Yu did not recognize to scan the 2 watermelons. Not bad, not bad, not bad. This melon is very good. Boss Liu looked at the scan data and his eyes lit up immediately. Boss Liu was very surprised. As far as these two big watermelons were concerned, they were much better than the ones he bought himself. Moreover, since this kind of high-end food was easy to sell and had high profits, he had to beg for more quotas when he went to buy them. Mr. Xiao, I am an honest man. Your goods are indeed of excellent quality. The general watermelon is 300 star yuan per 100 grams, but you can sell this watermelon for 350 star yuan. Boss Liu turned to look at Xiao Yu and said, how about this? I will take 350 star yuan as the base price and discount it by 80%, which means 280 star yuan per 100 grams. I will make a profit of 20 points. After deducting the store and various costs, I will only make a profit of 8 points. What do you think of this price? Honest people are often not very honest, but Boss Liu obviously didn't know that Xiao Yu could get the watermelon almost at his fingertips. Okay, let's do it at this price. Xiao Yu nodded readily. He didn't plan to bargain with the other party because watermelons were easily available on Earth. Although Xiao Yu was tricked by the capital, he was still the boss of a listed company. He could get as much as he wanted, hundreds or thousands of tons, so there was no need to bargain with the other party. Chapter 4, First Transaction. If we convert it based on the purchasing power of 1 star yuan equal to 1.5 yuan, the price of 1 jin of watermelon on Blue Star is equivalent to 2,100 yuan, while Xiao Yu's price of 1 jin on Earth is 1.63 yuan, a staggering difference of 1,288 times. Not to mention the purchase price of 280 star yuan per 100 grams, even if it is 280 star yuan per jin, Xiao Yu can accept it completely. Mr. Xiao is really a big businessman, so generous. Boss Liu was overjoyed when he heard it. He thought Xiao Yu would bargain or something, but he didn't expect to make a deal at a flat price. Thinking that Xiao Yu still had 500 kilograms of goods in his hand, Boss Liu hurriedly said, Mr. Xiao, when will we trade the batch of goods in your hand? There is no rush. Most of the goods are not in Qingyang. I will contact you, Boss Liu, and you will send someone to pick up the goods. I won't take these 2 melons back. Boss Liu, please accept them first. Oh, by the way, please give me cash settlement, Xiao Yu said with a smile, looking calm. Seeing him come back so quickly, Boss Liu thought the goods were already in Qingyang, but since the other party said so, he naturally couldn't say anything, and immediately smiled and nodded, saying, okay, no problem, wait a moment. After that, he went to get the money. The agreed price was 280 star yuan per 100 grams, which was 1,400 star yuan per caddy. The 2 big watermelons that Xiao Yu brought with a total of 24 caddies were 33,600 star yuan in total. After a while, Boss Liu came to Xiao Yu again with cash and handed him the cash. There were a total of 39 star yuan banknotes, including 33 1,000 denomination notes and 6 100 denomination notes. There were banknotes with a face value of 1,000, which was good, and could be put directly in the pocket. Xiao Yu counted them, then put the cash in his pocket and smiled. Boss Liu, then I won't disturb you from doing business, goodbye. Boss Liu also smiled and said, Mr. Xiao, take care. After handing over the money and the goods, the transaction was completed, and Xiao Yu walked out of the store. Walking away from the store to an empty corner, he took out the money again and checked each one. The 33 1,000 denomination star yuan notes all felt the same, including the 6 100 denomination star yuan notes. Xiao Yu was relieved now. If they all felt the same, they were either a fake or real. Obviously, the star yuan in his hand must be real, unless Boss Liu didn't want the so-called 500 kilograms of goods behind, which was a transaction expectation worth 700,000 star yuan. Xiao Yu put the money back in his pocket with satisfaction. Although star yuan couldn't be spent on Earth, it could be spent on Blue Star. Just now, he passed by a clothing store that had information about recruiting shop assistants, and the salary and benefits were also posted. This gave Xiao Yu a reference to the income of the local indigenous people at the bottom. The salary offered by the recruiting shop assistants was 2,500 to 3,000 star yuan. In other words, Xiao Yu bought 2 watermelons on Earth with less than 40 yuan and cashed them in, which could equal the income of an ordinary person here for about a year. Xiao Yu couldn't help but sigh that it was definitely a huge profit. No wonder there's a so-called industry rule that heroes don't ask where they come from, and goods don't ask where they come from. Huh? Blue Star has even produced artificially synthesized starch on a large scale. Xiao Yu wandered around the trading market and saw a two-city sales store on the left. The store only sold starch, and the price tag showed that the starch sold was industrial starch synthesized using carbon dioxide. The technology of artificially synthesized starch on Earth is still only in the laboratory, which is already a very good technological breakthrough. As for large-scale industrial mass production, it is unknown when it will be. However, thinking that the level of technology on Blue Star is much more advanced than that on Earth, Xiao Yu didn't think it was strange. By the way, he glanced at the price of this industrial synthetic starch, which was priced at 30 star yuan per 100 grams. Products related to food are not cheap in the Blue Star world, but artificially synthesized starch is available, so why is food so scarce? Xiao Yu still felt a little outrageous when he saw this price. A pound of synthetic starch is 150 star yuan, which seems to be cheaper than fruits and other foods, but Xiao Yu learned that this is the daily staple food of the local indigenous people, which is very expensive. According to the amount of starch an adult consumes every day, the starch expenditure alone in a month is about 900 to 1000 star yuan. Xiao Yu went to several nearby stores that sell food-related products, and finally came to a conclusion that surprised him. If the local indigenous people are calculated based on a monthly income of 3000 star yuan, the food expenses of the people here can account for about 60% to 65% of their income, which is just to eat enough instead of eating well. The proportion of food expenditure of the people in the Earth's own country is not small, but it is completely different, because the people in the country are big foodies, and they eat more for good food and regard it as consumption, so the angle coefficient is not completely applicable in the country. Doesn't it mean that the angle coefficient of at least this place on the Blue Star has reached the level of 0.6 to 0.65, Xiao Yu estimated in his heart while walking, and was surprised by this. If the angle coefficient reaches 0.6 according to the standards of the Earth, the living standard of the residents is in a state of poverty, and the living standard in the range of 0.5 to 0.6 is only in a state of food and clothing. Xiao Yu muttered in confusion, it's really weird. The technology level of this world is obviously much more advanced than that of Earth. The lower class people here can only barely make ends meet. Industrial synthetic starch is mass-produced, and normal food rations should not be a problem at all. Why is it like this? Is it that the scarcity of food is artificially created? This counterintuitive imagination puzzled Xiao Yu and aroused his interest. However, Xiao Yu did not intend to understand these things at the moment. He would talk about it later. He did not forget that the deadline for his bet agreement with Capital was urgent, and this problem had to be solved first. With a God-level ability to shuttle freely between Earth and Blue Star, Xiao Yu knew that he was on Earth, which meant that he had the technology of the entire Blue Star as a backing. He could completely re-register a new company, and it would not have any impact to throw Prism technology aside. The new company would definitely be able to start quickly. Of course, there was nothing wrong with doing this, but Xiao Yu did not intend to do so. These were two different things. If he was attacked by someone and hid in shame, he would not be able to swallow this breath. Not only this reason, Xiao Yu also realized that if he gave in so easily, how could he guarantee that the newly established company would not be coveted by others again? Peace can be maintained by struggle, and peace can be lost by compromise. This sentence is also applicable in the business world. Xiao Yu has made up his mind that he must make the capital lose badly this time. After a while, Xiao Yu thought about it and said to himself, let's rent a house here first, so as not to be caught when opening the teleportation stargate to and from the Earth. When teleporting before, the coordinate points selected were all in the bathroom, because there was basically no surveillance in the bathroom, but there was still a risk of being caught. Renting a house here on Blue Star would avoid being caught when teleporting between the Earth and Blue Star in the future. I don't know if I can rent a house without identity registration. I'll go and look for it first, Xiao Yu thought secretly. At that time, he still had to find a way to get a legal identity on Blue Star. It was very inconvenient to be an illegal resident, and it might also bring some unpredictable troubles and potential risks. Chapter 5, Even Breathing Air is Charged. Before Xiao Yu decided to spend money to rent a house, his first purchase on Blue Star was a set of breathing masks. Without a breathing mask, he could not leave the trading market because the outdoor air on Blue Star could not be directly breathed. In fact, Xiao Yu had long noticed that this trading market was a fully enclosed single building, isolated from the outdoors. Moreover, almost every passerby in the trading market had a breathing mask and airbag hanging around his waist. Xiao Yu also saw through the transparent isolation wall of the trading market that passers-by walking outside were wearing breathing masks. Why is this so? Xiao Yu still had a lot of question marks in his mind, but he could only suppress them temporarily in his heart. When his affairs on Earth were dealt with, he would then conduct a systematic exploration and understanding of the situation on Blue Star. Fortunately, it's in the trading market. Xiao Yu wandered around for a while and found a store selling respirators. Xiao Yu entered the store and chose a set of breathing masks. After reading the instructions, he quickly understood how to use it. He immediately said to the store owner, "Boss, I'll buy this set. Please fill up the oxygen for me." "Okay." A breathing mask costs 88 star yuan, and the oxygen is 5 star yuan, a total of 93 star yuan, the boss said. Xiao Yu took out a 100 yuan note from his pocket and handed it to the boss. The latter gave Xiao Yu 7 star yuan, and then took the airbag to pressurize and inject oxygen. After getting it done, Xiao Yu left the store and found the exit of the trading market. Many people who were going out put on breathing masks, and Xiao Yu himself put on the breathing mask he had just bought. In front of him was a curved structure made of transparent material. Outsiders could also see the facial features of people wearing a breathing mask. It's actually an intelligent screen. Xiao Yu was secretly surprised when he saw some data information in front of him. This display material is obviously more advanced than that on Earth. The breathing mask is so close that it seems like a front view eyepiece. Xiao Yu immediately became interested in this material. One of the core businesses of Prism Technology, which he founded, is semiconductor display, that is, display screens, including mobile phone screens, computer screens, etc. Prism Technology is also a supplier to several mobile phone manufacturers. Of course, it is not a big mobile phone manufacturer. At this moment, Xiao Yu followed other local natives into passage cabin, and then the door on the other side opened, and he followed everyone out of the trading market and came to the outside. The outdoor atmospheric composition data was soon displayed in front of the mask. Xiao Yu couldn't help but mutter, nitrogen 76.88%, oxygen 16.87%, carbon dioxide 1.89%, argon 0.95. No, did I read this carbon dioxide concentration wrong? At this moment, Xiao Yu's attention quickly focused on the carbon dioxide content, and he confirmed again that he was not wrong, that is, the content of 1.89%. Why is the carbon dioxide content in the atmosphere of Blue Star so exaggerated? Xiao Yu was surprised. He remembered that the carbon dioxide red line that his hometown Earth broke in 2019 was only 0.041%. The carbon dioxide content in the atmosphere of Blue Star is 46 times that of the Earth. No wonder you have to wear a breathing mask. Xiao Yu suddenly realized that the carbon dioxide content in the atmosphere of 0.2% is enough to make sensitive people breathe poorly. If it is increased 5 times, even the strongest people will be poisoned by carbon dioxide. The concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere of Blue Star is so high that people can only support it for about 10 to 15 minutes at most. If they don't leave such an environment in time, they will face the risk of shock or even death. In this world, even breathing air is charged. Xiao Yu shook his head with a smile. About half an hour later, Xiao Yu found a house in this town and successfully rented it. Originally, identity registration was required, but Xiao Yu used Star Yuan to settle the landlord. Money is the same in the world of Blue Star. The house Xiao Yu rented was fully equipped and ready for immediate move-in. He then went out again and returned to the trading market to buy a lot of products and materials. He then carried a full bag to the house he had just rented. If you pick out any of these products, it will cause a huge sensation on Earth. Xiao Yu placed all the things he bought on the table and was excited to see these products. After a while, Xiao Yu picked up one of the exquisite boxes and took out the product. It was a smart holographic bracelet, a wearable smart communication device. Its functions and positioning were the same as those of smartphones on Earth. But it was no surprise that the holographic bracelet was definitely a black technology product that was decades or even hundreds of years ahead of others on Earth. Incredible, so many precision components are integrated into a ring structure the size of a bracelet. Xiao Yu was shocked when he looked at the holographic bracelet product in his hand. He was engaged in technology research and development, so he was even more shocked. How high is the integration of the chip? And how to dissipate heat? How high is the energy density of the battery? Many technical problems quickly popped up in Xiao Yu's mind. The holographic smart bracelet in Xiao Yu's hand has a fog silver style. He went to a local specialty store and spent 399 star yuan to buy the flagship version, while the standard version is 299 star yuan. At this moment, Xiao Yu compared the holographic smart bracelet he just bought with the teleportation star ring on his left wrist. The size of the two is actually similar, but the difference is that the surface of the teleportation star ring is extremely smooth, which is extremely smooth. At first glance, the intuitive feeling is that the teleportation star ring is more advanced. Until now, Xiao Yu didn't know the origin of the teleportation star ring. When he woke up, he found that he was wearing this star ring inexplicably on his hand, and he couldn't take it off at all. Xiao Yu estimated that this star ring might be the product of a certain advanced civilization, and it was definitely not formed naturally. Its powerful ability has exceeded Xiao Yu's cognition, and he can only regard it as a product created by a great god-level civilization. Although the technology of the Blue Star world is far beyond the level of Earth's technology, it is basically within Xiao Yu's cognitive scope and is under the same framework of physical laws. However, this teleportation star ring has obviously surpassed Xiao Yu's cognition of science and technology. Looking at the newly bought holographic bracelet again, there is a structure similar to a camera hole with a diameter of 3.5 mm on the outer ring surface, and the holographic image is projected outward from this position. Xiao Yu already knows how to operate it, and the learning cost is very low. Basically, as long as you can use a smartphone, you can easily play with a holographic bracelet. The difference is that the interaction method is different. Smartphones interact by touching the physical screen, while holographic bracelets interact by touching the virtual panel. At this time, a two-dimensional holographic panel formed a two-dimensional holographic display panel above the structure similar to the camera hole. Xiao Yu tried it. The size of the panel can be enlarged or reduced at will. You only need to touch the holographic screen with your hand, and then you can enlarge or reduce the size of the holographic panel, like operating a smartphone to enlarge or reduce the picture. At this moment, this holographic panel was enlarged to about 12 inches by Xiao Yu. He slid on the two-dimensional desktop and clicked on some applications. Wow, there's a 3D desktop mode. Xiao Yu was slightly surprised. After switching to the 3D desktop mode, all the applications became three-dimensional. Xiao Yu couldn't help but murmur as he tried it. If this product is released on Earth, it will compete with smartphones and will definitely easily kill all smartphone brands. Chapter 6. It is best to start with new materials. Xiao Yu put the holographic bracelet back on the table after experiencing it for a while. He stared at the many technological products on the table. The technology of these products is far beyond the current technological level of the Earth. You can't just take it over without thinking, otherwise it won't be explained clearly. Just a holographic bracelet, there are so many high-end technology industry chains involved behind it. Obviously, the most prudent strategy is to combine the current technological level of the Earth. First come up with some technologies that are about 10 years ahead of the Earth, and make sense under the current technological system of the Earth. Then no one will doubt it, and will only sigh at your strong technological innovation ability. If you come up with a technological product that is decades or even hundreds of years ahead, it will be impossible to explain. For example, if this holographic bracelet is disassembled, it may take thousands of processes, involving multiple industries, materials, information, communications, AI, optics, semiconductors, displays, etc. A series of technological breakthroughs support the birth of such a terminal product. The people on the Earth are not fools. If they rashly launch the holographic bracelet, they will disassemble and study it and come to the conclusion that the current technological system level of the Earth is not enough to support such advanced technological terminal equipment, and it is not a product of this era at all. It's like if we had the current smartphones 100 years ago, the Earth's technology system at that time couldn't have made them. Obviously, only when all the core technologies are in place and there is a complete technology tree that evolves into an industrial system, can the holographic bracelet be launched in the end, because the entire technology development has a traceable path. To put it bluntly, it would be very risky for Xiao Yu to bring technology that is too advanced to the times to Earth. He is clear about this. He doesn't want anyone to know that he has the strange ability to travel between Earth and the Blue Star at will, and the teleportation ring can't be taken off his hand at all. Xiao Yu speculates that it seems to be bound to him. Then this secret must not be exposed, otherwise it is hard to predict the consequences. and Xiao Yu believes that if it is exposed, there is a 99.99% probability that it will bring disaster to himself. It is safest to build a complete set of technical systems step by step from the bottom technology, so that the technology iteration and development can be traced. Xiao Yu nodded secretly, and after thinking for a moment, he had an idea. It is best to start with new materials. Xiao Yu immediately thought of the prism technology he found it on Earth, which is a display screen. It is best to start from this field. Blue Star has mastered the ability to mass-produce ultra-high purity graphene materials. Even here, graphene is already a backward technological product. It is best to start with the graphene materials. Xiao Yu immediately made a decision. Graphene materials are not a new concept on Earth. Graphene can be prepared a long time ago, but the price is very expensive and difficult to mass produce, especially the high-purity graphene material output ratio is very low. But on Blue Star, any factory can produce and manufacture it. It is already a backward technological product. Blue Star has long eliminated transparent screens because the popularization of holographic technology does not require screens directly. Only some special products will use them, such as breathing masks. However, graphene materials are still cutting-edge technology on Earth, and their uses are very wide. For example, if they are used in smartphone screens, smartphones can be designed with under-screen cameras to achieve a truly full-screen display. Now, smartphones on Earth have a very big pain point, that is, the current display screen cannot hide the front camera under the screen, because the screen's light transmittance is not good, which will affect the imaging of the front camera, and therefore it is impossible to design a truly full-screen mobile phone. Because of this, current mobile phones are either notch screens or extreme screens, and the so-called lifting front cameras are the product of compromise and cannot become mainstream at all. The transmittance of graphene materials reaches 98%, which is higher than that of the most transparent glass. Mobile phone displays made of graphene materials can completely hide the camera under the screen to achieve a truly full-screen display, completely saying goodbye to notch screens, extreme screens and other mobile phones. The entire mobile phone screen is clean, which is simply the gospel of obsessive-compulsive disorder patients. This is just one aspect of the application of graphene materials. There are too many fields that can be applied. The key is that the current technological level on Earth cannot be mass-produced. Wow, the technology for mass production of graphene can be found directly on the internet. Xiao Yu was surfing the internet on Blue Star using a holographic bracelet. He searched for information related to graphene materials and was surprised to find that there were even detailed tutorials on the internet. Graphene materials on Blue Star were actually classified as low-end manufacturing. The production technology was completely open and there were no technical barriers. As long as you invest money to set up a factory and purchase some equipment, you can directly produce it, and you don't even need a production license. This made Xiao Yu very excited. He immediately copied and downloaded all the technical information related to graphene to the holographic bracelet, and prepared to download it offline to go back and study it carefully. There were no technical barriers to industrial equipment for manufacturing graphene. He also downloaded a complete set of information on graphene mass production technology. Xiao Yu planned to download the information and study it carefully. He couldn't stay on Blue Star forever, so he went back to his hometown on Earth. But once he returned to Earth and closed the teleportation stargate, the holographic bracelet would definitely not be able to connect to the internet on Blue Star. He downloaded it and read it in offline mode. Xiao Yu downloaded a whole set of information, then opened the teleportation stargate and returned to his bedroom on Earth. He only brought a holographic bracelet with him, and the other things were placed directly in the rented house on Blue Star. The items he bought were common on Blue Star, but if they were placed on Earth, they would be a complete black technology product. If they were stolen, it would be troublesome. Although the probability of this is extremely small, it would definitely not be wrong to be safe. Xiao Yu walked out of the bedroom and walked around the living room of the villa. Then he went to another room. A 56-year-old middle-aged man was sitting at the desk in the room. He was counting the household expenses. "Uncle Qin, don't let anyone disturb me these days." Xiao Yu stood at the door and glanced at the middle-aged man in the room. The latter put down his work, looked up at Xiao Yu at the door and said, "Okay." Xiao Yu nodded and said no more. He turned around and went back to the bedroom to study the information downloaded to the holographic bracelet. This middle-aged man named Qin Yu is Xiao Yu's private butler. He will be responsible for handling daily housework, meal arrangements, schedule management, reception, travel and other matters at home. On this side of the Earth, Xiao Yu is still the head and founder of a listed company. He lives in a luxury villa. No matter how much the company's stock price plummets, he is still an outstanding young entrepreneur with a net worth of over 100 million. There are not many young people who can successfully list the company they founded at the age of 25. If the gambling agreement with the investors fails, Prism Technology will trigger a series of punitive clauses in the gambling agreement if it fails to reach the target market value of 26.5 billion within 3 years of listing. However, as long as the company's market value reaches the threshold of the target market value of 26.5 billion, it does not need to maintain the target market value for a long time. The agreement only stipulates that the stock price will reach this point, and Xiao Yu will complete the gambling agreement and break the deadlock. As long as it goes up, even if the market value is halved later, the investors will still make a lot of money if they withdraw from this position. Moreover, when they want to withdraw, the investors will definitely create momentum to raise the stock price to attract investors to follow suit and take over, and even let some fund managers take the investors' money to take over at high positions. At present, the market value of Prism Technology has fallen to 3.7 billion, and the stock price is still falling. The investors seem to have lost a lot, but as long as they kick out Xiao Yu, the founder, and completely control Prism Technology, they can earn more. In short, from the perspective of the investors, no matter what the situation is, they will not lose. In the bedroom, Xiao Yu looked at the information on the display panel of the holographic bracelet while holding a mobile phone in his other hand to make a call. Suking, I have a list here. Is your team interested? Whether it succeeds or not, there are 30 million, and there will be an additional 350 million if it succeeds. How about it? Xiao Yu is contacting one of his high school classmates, Wen Suking, who is now a lawyer with an excellent record. This time Xiao Yu decided to fight with the investors, so he naturally had to ask professionals to consult and plan the plan. Wen Suking herself has excellent professional ability, and she is in the Beijing circle. Needless to say, she has a lot of connections. There is also the relationship of classmates. Xiao Yu waited and decided that it was most appropriate to invite her over. After this incident, Xiao Yu has decided that the company must spend a lot of money to support a professional legal team in the future. Wen Suking on the other end of the phone was surprised and asked, "Such a large number? What type of case is this?" Xiao Yu smiled and said, "The situation is a bit complicated. It is difficult to explain it in a few words over the phone. If you are interested, please come to Linsao and we will meet to discuss it in detail." After a while, Wen Suking's voice came from the phone. "Such a large order came to me personally, and it is from an old classmate. I have no choice but to accept it. See you in 3 days." Chapter 7, Two-way trading is a win-win situation, win twice. Xiao Yu hung up the phone and made another call. "Chairman." As soon as the phone was connected, a voice came from Xiao Yu's assistant, named Yun Shu, who is working in the company at the moment. Xiao Yu directly ordered, "Please prepare a copy of the company's top-level design materials and send it to my home on Friday morning." "Okay, Chairman. Are there any other instructions?" Yun Shu asked. "That's all." Xiao Yu hung up the phone, and after arranging these things, he immersed himself in the full-series bracelet panel and the method of mass production of graphene materials again. With systematic learning and understanding, Xiao Yu also suddenly became clear. Only when you have mastered the theoretical technology of mass production of graphene materials, you can go to Blue Star without worries to deal in lower-cost graphene materials on Earth. Having a sword in your hand is not the same as having a sword but not using it. This is a bottom-up strategy for the worst situation. In the early stage, Xiao Yu will not really mass produce on Earth, let alone apply for any patent technology. Only a fool would do that. It is impossible to apply for patents for real monopoly technology. If you apply, you have to disclose many details of the information, so that others can do it privately. If you don't apply for technical patents, although this will not be protected by intellectual property rights, it doesn't matter. As long as I am confident that I can monopolize it and only I can do it, no one else can do it, then there is no need to apply for patents. And this can also be a good cover. Xiao Yu's method is to set up a so-called secret technology laboratory and secret production line on the Earth to cover it, and then directly purchase graphene materials from Blue Star, and then get them to the Earth through the teleportation stargate. When the time is gradually ripe, it will not be too late to let the Earth carry out mass production. Anyway, The technology has been mastered. As for large-scale transportation, it is definitely impossible to move it by yourself, and you can't let others know. But this problem is easy to solve. AI can solve it. Give artificial intelligence to tools such as trailers that carry items, and they can be operated unmanned without the participation of others. The AI technology on Blue Star is far superior to that on Earth, but Xiao Yu dare not use it directly. He is worried that the robots on Blue Star and his company will discover the existence of the teleportation stargate through the background big data. In order to avoid this kind of thing, Xiao Yu's method is to learn to program a set of AI algorithms by himself, and then empower the equipment. There are many related technical papers on Blue Star. In addition to the most advanced technology that is difficult to obtain, many backward technologies can be directly learned from the technical papers published on Blue Star. Although it seems backward, it is completely enough for Xiao Yu, and even backward technology on Earth is leading black technology. Only when Xiao Yu knows the AI-controlled equipment he programmed himself can he shuttle through the teleportation stargate with confidence. Not only is the price of graphene very cheap on Blue Star, but Xiao Yu can also use the fruits, vegetables, and grains purchased from Earth to earn star yuan on Blue Star. It doesn't cost much on Earth, but it can make thousands of times the profit on Blue Star. Then spend star yuan on Blue Star to purchase graphene and transport it back to Earth. It is extremely cheap to spend star yuan on Blue Star to purchase graphene, and it is a complete win-win, two-way positive cycle situation. After the graphene material is brought to Earth, Prism Technology can use this material to make products and become an upstream super supplier with strong technological monopoly capabilities. This material has a wide range of uses. For example, transparent conductive electrodes, graphene's good conductivity and light transmittance have huge application prospects. Touch screens, liquid crystal displays, organic photovoltaic cells, and organic light-emitting diodes all require good transparent conductive electrode materials. In particular, graphene's mechanical strength, flexibility, and light transmittance are better than the commonly used material indium tin oxide. For example, in the field of batteries, graphene batteries have higher energy density, faster charging speed, and longer life. The safety problem of graphene batteries that may burn or explode under high temperature and overcharge conditions has also been solved by Blue Star scientists through technical means. In addition, it has huge application prospects in many fields including integrated circuits, transistors, thermoconductive materials or thermal interface materials, functional materials, environmental fields, drug delivery, biomedicine, micro-nano-processing, etc. In short, as long as you can provide a large amount of this cheap new material, and you are the only one who has the exclusive monopoly of mass production technology, then you are the supplier of major companies and will be trampled by major purchasing manufacturers. 3 days later, Friday morning, Xiao Yu woke up, washed up and left the room. The housekeeper had prepared breakfast just right. Just as he came to the dining table to eat, the housekeeper Qin Yu came over at this time, and a beautiful woman in formal work clothes who looked quite capable also followed. It was Xiao Yu's assistant Yun Shu. "Chairman, this is the information you want." Yun Shu immediately handed a document to Xiao Yu. "Uncle Qin, go to the airport to pick up my guest, Wen Suking, my high school classmate." Xiao Yu took the materials and turned to look at Qin Yu and said. The latter nodded and left, and told the special car driver to drive Xiao Yu's car, and Qin Yu went to the airport to pick him up in person. In the restaurant, Xiao Yu was eating breakfast while opening a document with one hand and looking at it. He asked without looking up, "I'm not on the company these days. What's going on?" Yun Shu, who was standing next to him, hesitated for a moment and said bluntly, "Lianhe announced the termination of cooperation with our company the day before yesterday and found another supply chain to replace our business, Prism Technology, as the display screen supplier of this company." Xiao Yu estimated that it was mostly the work of Penghu Capital to remove Prism Technology from the supply chain. It was Penghu Capital that took the lead in asking Xiao Yu to sign the bet agreement. "Is there anything else?" Xiao Yu asked calmly. "This is the recent matter. Everything else is normal," Yun Shu replied. She was secretly surprised. The chairman was so calm about such bad news. As his assistant, Yun Shu knew that Prism Technology was in a bad situation recently and that her boss was likely to fail to complete the bet agreement. After a while, Xiao Yu put the materials aside and said concisely, "Do your thing, Hearing this, Yunshu nodded and left Xiao Yu's villa and returned to Prism Technology Company. After Xiao Yu finished breakfast, he took the materials to the living room, and at the same time went to the room to take out a gambling agreement document and put it together, and then waited. About 40 minutes later, Xiao Yu's private car returned to the villa. The housekeeper Qin Yu brought a woman into the living room of the villa. Seeing this, Xiao Yu immediately stood up and said with a smile, "You just got off the plane and haven't eaten yet? Have breakfast first. Please forgive me for not entertaining you in a hurry." When Suking pretended to be dissatisfied but said with a smile, "How long has it been since we had dinner together last time? You are so unfamiliar. I have to raise the price." Xiao Yu laughed dumbly and said immediately, "Sit down." When Suking was not polite either. He sat down and said bluntly, "I really didn't eat anything, so I won't be polite with you." Xiao Yu turned his head and looked at the housekeeper, "Uncle Qin." Qin Yu understood and nodded immediately, and went to ask the servant to prepare breakfast. Xiao Yu sat down on the sofa opposite Wen Suking and chatted with his high school classmate about some family matters. The servant brought a breakfast and left. While eating breakfast, Wen Suking looked at Xiao Yu curiously and asked, "What lawsuit are you going to file?" Xiao Yu crossed his legs, leaned back on the sofa with his hands on his knees. He smiled and said, "This time I asked you to come here not to sue anyone, but to ask you, a professional, to advise and plan for me. My investors set me up in the early years, and I couldn't stand it. If I don't make up for it, I'm not thinking straight. Now my idea is to set up a reverse trap for them to turn the tide. Do you think it's feasible and provide me with a set of plans?" If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 8, A Series of Traps. The investor set you up? How could you be so careless? When Suking's eyes flashed with a bit of surprise. The world is dangerous. I stepped on a landmine when I was young. Just treat it as paying tuition, Xiao Yu said very casually. The biggest reason for this is that he now knows how big an advantage he has. He has enough confidence to support him, so he is naturally calm. When Suking also finished breakfast and asked immediately, "What is the specific situation?" Xiao Yu glanced at the materials on the table. "It's all here, you can see it first." When Suking had noticed the materials on the table a long time ago. He picked up one of the documents but did not open it immediately. Instead, he looked up at Xiao Yu, "Then I really read it." Hearing this, Xiao Yu smiled and said, "I trust you." Putting aside other things, even if there is no identity as a classmate, Xiao Yu promised a minimum of 30 million plus an additional 350 million in compensation. Any law firm would take it without hesitation. From the perspective of interests, it would not be good for her to leak the situation. When Suking opened the document material and read it. 7 years ago, Penghu Capital invested 300 million yuan in 19.99% of Prism Technologies' equity. At that time, the company's valuation was about 1.5 billion yuan, and it had to pay interest. The 300 million yuan at that time, including principal and interest, is now 600 million yuan. As an investor, what they most want to see is that the company can go public. Only by going public can the benefits of investment be maximized. Therefore, a gambling clause was agreed upon, requiring Prism Technology to be successfully listed within 5 years, and the company's market value must reach 26.5 billion in the 3 years after the listing. Penghu Capital is not gambling with Prism Technology, the company's main body, but with Xiao Yu, the major shareholder and actual controller. Therefore, the 600 million yuan needs to be paid by Xiao Yu instead of the company. Xiao Yu now certainly cannot come up with the astronomical figure of 600 million yuan. Unless Xiao Yu sells his shares in Prism Technology to cash out, the current share price of Prism Technology has hit a record low, falling to 3.97 yuan per share, corresponding to a market value of 3.446 billion. Xiao Yu is the company's major shareholder and actual controller, holding 300 million shares, accounting for 34.56% of the company's total share capital. This shareholding ratio is the life and death line of the company's control. As long as the shareholding exceeds 34%, it is equivalent to having a veto power in the company, because a 67% majority is required for voting on major matters. Xiao Yu holds a 34.56% equity ratio, which means that as long as he opposes, the vote will not pass. According to the current market value of 3.446 billion of Prism Technology, the market value of Xiao Yu's entire equity is 1.19 billion. Cashing out 600 million is equivalent to selling 17.4% of the equity. If more than half of the equity is directly reduced, the company's control will be lost. Moreover, once such a large-scale reduction is announced, even if half of the equity is sold, it will definitely not be 600 million, because once the reduction announcement comes out, the company's stock price will definitely be further smashed, and it is not impossible to cut it in half again. At that time, all the equity in Xiao Yu's hands may not be worth 600 million, which is equivalent to being eaten up and kicked out. At that time, Xiao Yu was not completely a novice. He was still concerned about the control. In addition to holding more than 34% of the equity, he also signed a concerted action agreement with several major shareholders, such as Penghu Capital, to add another layer of insurance. With a concerted action agreement, even if the equity ratio is less than 34%, it still has absolute control over the company, because Xiao Yu votes, and the shareholders who signed a concerted action agreement with him must follow him to vote unconditionally. If Xiao Yu votes in favor, they must vote in favor, and vice versa. At that time, Xiao Yu believed that with double insurance, there would be no problem with the control of Prism Technology, but it was this concerted action agreement that laid the groundwork for the future. Penghu Capital led several capitals to agree to sign, but Xiao Yu also had to sign a bet clause. After reading it, Xiao Yu also added a priority repurchase clause. After some tug of war, he finally signed the bet clause. The thunder in it is a preemptive sale agreement, and it is precisely this preemptive sale agreement that is very fatal. Wen Suking couldn't help but frown, and said solemnly, "You have fallen into the trap of capital, and you are trapped one by one. If the market value of Prism Technology does not reach 26.5 billion by the end of the deadline, Penghu Capital can ask Xiao Yu to pay 600 million including principal and interest. At the same time, Penghu Capital can trigger the right of first sale clause, that is, when Penghu Capital sells the 19.99% of the shares in his hands to others, Xiao Yu must also sell his shares with him. This is the so-called right of first sale clause, which is to lead Xiao Yu to sell together, and the reason why Penghu Capital does this is that it has another priority liquidation clause, that is, Xiao Yu must first repay the 600 million owed to Penghu Capital with the money after selling his shares. Since it is a setup, Penghu Capital must sell the shares at a discount when selling them to others, and the buyer must be the institution secretly held by Penghu Capital. Only by selling the shares at a discount can the 34.56% of Xiao Yu's shares be sold at a value far lower than 600 million yuan. The cash will definitely be less than 600 million yuan, which will trigger the priority liquidation clause. This money will be used to repay Penghu Capital first, and it is very likely that they will continue to owe 100 million or 200 million yuan. It can be said that they have eaten everything up and kicked Xiao Yu, the founder, out of the company. The houses and villas under his name will be auctioned and executed. Wen Suking put down the materials and sighed lightly, looking at Xiao Yu helplessly and said, "I'm sorry, Xiao Yu, I can't do anything. This is a dead end and can't be broken. In any case, Penghu Capital is invincible. If you complete the gambling agreement, he can make a lot of money. If you lose the gambling, he will still make a steady profit and you will be out." Wen Suking didn't plan to ask him for the 30 million guaranteed reward. Knowing Xiao Yu's situation, it is very likely that he will have nothing. It's really hard to ask him for 30 million. What's that look in your eyes? It's as if I've lost everything. Xiao Yu smiled calmly. Wen Suking couldn't help but said, "How can you still laugh? If you fall into such a trap, you may become poor overnight and lose everything." Xiao Yu smiled as usual, and said calmly, "What if I can complete the terms of the gambling agreement and let the company's market value soar to more than 26.5 billion within the deadline?" Wen Suking was stunned. "Hi," Xiao Yu continued, "I didn't see the trap set by Penghu Capital for me before, but now I understand it even if you don't say it, but this is not the point, nor is it the purpose of asking you to come here for advice." After a pause, Xiao Yu added, "I asked you to come here because if I can increase the company's market value to 26.5 billion and complete the gambling agreement, how can I make Penghu Capital and the other investors who set up the trap for me get out of the game with bloodshed? I don't want the stock price to soar so that they can cash out at a high position and make a lot of money and leave." What I want is for them to leave with a loss. When Suking looked at him in surprise, can you really raise the company's market value to 26.5 billion to complete the bet agreement? When I came here, I also looked at your company's stock price. The current market value is less than 3.5 billion. It has to increase 6 or 7 times. The deadline is only about half a year. How is this possible? Xiao Yu said concisely. I can. When Suking was hesitant to speak when she heard this. Although Xiao Yu said it with a solemn promise, she was still very skeptical in her heart. Xiao Yu thought about it and decided to reveal some information to her, so he said with some reservation, I have developed a revolutionary new material. The valuation of hundreds of billions in the future is not a problem. As long as the news is exposed and confirmed, investors in the secondary market will definitely buy it up. It will be easy to realize the market value of 26.5 billion in the short term. Hearing this, when Suking flashed a look of surprise. Are you sure? Xiao Yu nodded. I'm sure. You don't have to worry about anything else. Just assume that I will definitely be able to realize the target market value. Based on this, do you think you can meet my demands and design a plan to make several investors lose money and get out? Seeing Xiao Yu's certainty, when Suking thought for a while and made it clear, if you can really complete the gambling agreement, with this major premise, and make the investors lose money and get out, then I can provide a feasible plan to achieve a big turnaround against the wind. Chapter 9, Solution and Return to Blue Planet. Xiao Yu couldn't help but feel refreshed when he heard Wen Suking's clear answer, and immediately asked, what plan? Wen Suking didn't answer immediately. She lowered her eyes and thought for a while, then looked up at Xiao Yu and asked, does the property rights of the technology you master belong to you personally or to Prism Technology? You can't hide this from me. Hearing this, Xiao Yu smiled and said, of course, I can tell you clearly that it does not belong to Prism Technology. Wen Suking immediately showed joy and said, that's easy. After a moment, she said clearly, I suggest that you set up another company, put the technology you master under the name of the newly established company, and then announce the technology you master to the public. First, spread the rumor that you are planning to merge this company with Prism Technology. If your new technology is as powerful as you say, investors in the secondary market will definitely buy Prism Technology stocks, and the stock price will indeed skyrocket in the short term. During this period, don't let Prism Technology suspend trading for restructuring. Continue to release positive news, but don't release it all at once. Release it in batches, and it's best to make sure that each release of positive news exceeds market expectations. This will indeed allow the stock price to rise rapidly. At this point, Wen Suking stopped to think for a while, reorganized his words and continued, when Prism Technology fulfills its target market value of more than 26.5 billion, you will announce that the merger and restructuring has failed, and the stock price will inevitably plummet. Wen Suking stared at Xiao Yu and asked himself, what is the situation that the investors can't accept the most? The company's delisting? Xiao Yu's heart moved, and he asked uncertainly, do you mean to let Prism Technology delist? Wen Suking smiled and said, there is no need to really delist, but you can suppress the share price of Prism Technology to below 1 yuan, because there is a regulation in the A-share market that if the share price of a listed company is lower than 1 yuan for 20 consecutive trading days, it will trigger a forced delisting mechanism. I just looked at the materials you provided. Around the expiration date of your bet, it is almost the unlocking period for the restricted shares of several major investment institutions of Penghu Capital. I infer that their plan is to kick you out. After seizing control of Prism Technology, they will find a way to raise the stock price and then withdraw with profit. If you can accept the risk of Prism Technology being delisted, then you can push the stock price towards the floor price without any scruples. Penghu Capital will definitely not accept delisting, and there is a high probability that they will protect the market. In this way, you can lock in more funds from them, and when it is almost done, you can release a bigger super negative to break through the stock price. Of course, this is the overall idea. There are still many details. I will work out a detailed implementation plan later. Wen Suking said here, looked at Xiao Yu and added with a smile, is this enough to relieve your anger? Xiao Yu smiled when he heard this and said, of course, this is worth it. It's enough to relieve your anger. Wen Suking looked at him and said with a smile, how is it? Is it worth spending more than 300 million? Xiao Yu said happily. Being able to do this to make them lose money, my emotional value can be maximized, and the money is not wasted. Then, Xiao Yu changed the subject. However, Will this way of doing things incur legal risks of manipulating stock prices? When Suking immediately answered his question, it cannot be said that this behavior does not manipulate the market, but you don't have to worry. Please believe in my professional ability. I will help you avoid potential legal risks and make reasonable use of the rules. Xiao Yu was relieved when he heard her say this, and smiled. I believe in your professional ability. When Suking looked at him and said, give me a few days, no later than 10 days, and I will give you a complete and detailed solution. Hearing this, Xiao Yu nodded. Okay, I'll wait for your news. When Suking immediately added, don't be idle here, go register a new company as soon as possible, and put your mysterious technology under the name of the company. This is an indispensable key link in setting up the scheme. Xiao Yu nodded again. No problem. After the two chatted for a few minutes, when Suking also said goodbye and left, preparing to design a complete set of solutions that met Xiao Yu's requirements. After a while, Xiao Yu called the housekeeper Qin Yu and told him, Uncle Qin, you go and rent a large warehouse for me as soon as possible, and then purchase the items on this list. It will be done within 3 to 5 days. As he said, Xiao Yu handed a list to Qin Yu, who took it and took a look. He found that the items to be purchased on the list were actually a large amount of food and fruits and other food-related items. Although he didn't understand why Xiao Yu was tossing all this, Qin Yu put away the list and nodded and replied, I'll arrange it right away. The next day, Xiao Yu registered a new company according to Wen Suking's suggestion, called Lingan New Materials, to conduct new material research. It is very convenient to register a company now, and it should be approved in a few days. Xiao Yu did not sit idle and wait. While registering Linghan New Materials and waiting for approval, he teleported to Qingyang Town in the Blue Star world again that afternoon and teleported to the rented house here. Is the time flow rate different between Earth and Blue Star? Xiao Yu suddenly had this feeling. He walked to the French window and opened the curtains. In the houses on Blue Star, all the buildings are fully enclosed and isolated from the outdoor air, so the windows cannot be opened, but there are also escape routes. You can breathe normally at home without wearing a breathing mask, but you need to buy oxygen regularly. That's right, even breathing air is not free in the world of Blue Star. Xiao Yu opened the curtains and looked at the sky of Blue Star. He was immediately shocked. A huge and extremely bright planet was hanging in the sky. Xiao Yu estimated that the apparent diameter of this planet was at least 10 times that of the moon seen on Earth. Is this a satellite of Blue Star? The orbital distance is too close, Xiao Yu muttered to himself while looking at the planet hanging high in the night sky. After a while, he retracted his gaze and sat back on the sofa in the living room and turned on the holographic bracelet. I don't know much about Blue Star. I'd better spend some time to learn about it. Xiao Yu searched for information about the human geography of this world on the internet of Blue Star. After clicking on the encyclopedia information of Blue Star and browsing it roughly, it suddenly dawned on him. It turns out that it is not a satellite of Blue Star, but a companion star. Xiao Yu was very surprised. He did not expect that Blue Star was actually a binary planet system. The information shows that the companion star of Blue Star is called Yangxing. The two are 1.16 million kilometers apart and revolve around the common center of mass. The parent star is also a yellow dwarf star like the Sun of the Earth, but the mass is slightly larger than that of the Sun. They are both in the habitable zone of this parent star, so Yangxing is not also a planet with life, Xiao Yu secretly guessed, but as he read on, he found that his guess was wrong. Although they are both in the habitable zone, Yangxing has not evolved life. The information shows that Blue Star and Yangxing have been tidally locked to each other, and they always have only one face to each other. It turns out that a sunlight cycle of Blue Star is 36 hours, Xiao Yu suddenly realized, but the revolution period is the same as that of the Earth, and the orbital inclination also makes Blue Star have 4 seasons. What surprised Xiao Yu was that the data showed that the Blue Star was not born in this star system. The age of the strata showed that the age of the Blue Star was 3 billion years older than the current parent star. This shows that the Blue Star is an outsider and was captured by the current parent star. A wandering black hole discovered by astronomers on the Blue Star, after complex orbital calculations and reverse deduction, concluded that this black hole passed by the parent star about 6 billion years ago, when the parent star was less than 100 million years old. The gravitational disturbance caused by the passing of the wandering black hole caused the orbits of the major celestial bodies in the star system to fall into chaos. Some planets were directly thrown out to become wandering planets, and some fell into the parent star. The blue star originally revolved outside the event plane of the wandering black hole's horizon. The force was mutual. When the wandering black hole passed by, the blue star was also thrown out of its original orbit by the gravitational disturbance and was captured by the current parent star. It is precisely because of the intrusion of the blue star that the orbits of the major celestial bodies in the star system, which have been initially stable, have fallen into chaos. The orbit of the blue star continues to shrink toward the parent star, and after tens of millions of years, it approaches the parent star, breaking through the rigid body Roche limit of the blue star and being torn into pieces and falling into the parent star. However, it was held by the gravity of the flame star. The two did not collide and merge, but instead formed a binary star system. As a result, the orbit of the flame star shrank inward and eventually stabilized in the current habitable zone. Originally, there was also a planet with a mass of 0.7 times that of the Earth at the edge of this habitable zone. As a result, it was disturbed by the gravity of the flame blue binary star and was thrown out of the parent star system by the gravitational slingshot effect, becoming a wandering planet. The two gas giants on the outer edge collided and merged under gravitational disturbance, forming a gas giant planet with a mass of 1.59 times that of Jupiter. A large amount of matter was thrown into space during the collision, and a series of satellites were formed under the action of gravity, 3 of which were satellites with a mass of 1.3, 0.9 and 1.1 times that of the Earth, respectively. The two satellites with a mass of 0.9 and 1.1 times that of the Earth also formed a dual satellite system and were tidally locked to each other. The planets in the first orbit lost a lot of angular momentum due to the gravitational disturbance and were tidally locked to the parent star 3.9 billion years in advance. The planets in the third orbit were torn apart and fell into the parent star. After this interstellar turmoil, about 80 million years later, the major celestial bodies in the star system stabilized again in the new orbit. Yangtze also lost a lot of angular momentum in this great turmoil, and its rotation period dropped to 30 hours. The tidal force will gradually lose angular momentum, and eventually the blue star with a smaller mass will be the first to be tidally locked to Yangtze. About 1.9 billion years later, Yangtze was also tidally locked to the blue star. Since then, the two planets have been tidally locked to each other until today, and the rotation period of the two planets has become the current 36 hours. It's really tortuous, Xiao Yu laughed dumbly. The universe is so big that there are so many wonders. However, this also explains why this binary planet system is in the habitable zone. The blue star can breed life, but Yangtze cannot, because the material structure of the two is fundamentally different. Chapter 10, Xiao Yu is greatly shocked. Xiao Yu continued to look at the data of blue star. The mainstream theory recognized by astronomers here is that billions of years ago, blue star's parent star was swallowed by a wandering black hole, but blue star survived and changed its original orbit under the action of gravity. The eccentricity of blue star's new orbit is very large. The distance from the black hole at the farthest point of its orbit around the black hole is at least more than 0.7 to 1 light-years. Moreover, when the black hole passed by the current parent star, blue star happened to be running at the farthest point of its orbital eccentricity, which is why it was captured. There is sufficient evidence for such a theory. First of all, the geological history of blue star is older than that of its current parent star. Secondly, blue star has abundant heavy elements, such as gold, which is considered a scarce element in the universe. Blue star contains rich gold veins. It should be known that the conditions for the formation of gold are very harsh. Only events such as neutron star mergers and supernova explosions at the end of stellar evolution can synthesize heavy elements such as gold. In addition, when a black hole swallows other celestial matter, such as when it swallows a star, an accretion disk will be formed. The accretion disk of a black hole is also a key environment for synthesizing heavy elements such as gold. The mainstream theory in the astronomical community of blue star believes that when the wandering black hole devoured the former parent star of blue star, it formed an accretion disk that lasted for tens of millions to 200 million years, during which various elements were synthesized. The accretion disk rotates very fast, sometimes even close to the speed of light. Part of the matter outside the black hole horizon event will escape, and part of it will be captured by the gravity of blue star, making the gold veins of this planet far exceed the normal value level, and there are many other exotic substances. Because of this, gold cannot become the hard currency of blue star, because it is not scarce, and it is only classified as an ordinary industrial metal on Blue Star. Good guy, gold is so worthless here on Blue Star. Xiao Yu was also surprised to see this information, and then he subconsciously thought that if the gold here was brought to Earth, wouldn't it be easy to become rich enough to rival a country? Gold is super scarce on Earth, and it is a hard currency. All humans on Earth recognize the currency attribute of this thing. If there's a chance, I can find a way to move some of it over there, Xiao Yu pondered secretly, but he also knew that although gold is very abundant on Blue Star, it cannot be moved to Earth recklessly. Because the scientists on Earth are not fools, the abundance of gold on Earth can be calculated. Too much will bring unpredictable risks and troubles. Black technology can make money faster, and it can be transformed into innovative technology for your company. What? There are abundant natural room temperature superconducting ores on Blue Star. Xiao Yu continued to browse the information while thinking. When he saw the description of this paragraph, he was so surprised that he almost jumped up. Compared with the existence of a large number of gold veins, the existence of natural room temperature superconducting ores shocked Xiao Yu even more. At this time, Xiao Yu exclaimed and read the content. The naturally formed room temperature superconducting ore has such a strong power that it is enough to rely on the magnetic field of the blue planet to suspend the suspended mountains containing such ore. Wow, the rhythm of Pandora. Now Xiao Yu finally understood why the transportation vehicles on the blue planet are all suspended, and they are not expensive. He also seemed to understand how to solve the heat dissipation problem if the holographic bracelet can achieve such a high degree of integration. If it is a superconducting material, there is no heat generated at all, and there is no need for heat dissipation. The integration of the chip can be completely upgraded from 2-dimensional to 3-dimensional integration. Xiao Yu couldn't help but complain, as a foreigner from Earth, I really envy the resources that the humans on Blue Star have. Gold and room temperature superconductors that Earthlings dream of are actually abundant in Blue Star. No wonder the technology here is developing faster than that on Earth. It's a strange thing that it's not fast. Xiao Yu felt that if his hometown Earth had such favorable conditions, the technological development would definitely not be much worse than that of Blue Star. Superconducting suspended mountain? I must see it with my own eyes if I have a chance. It must be very spectacular and shocking, Xiao Yu couldn't help but say, quickly put away these thoughts, close these information pages, and turn to learn other information. By the way, I looked at the information of Yangxing. The diameter of the planet is about 21,781 kilometers, and the volume is 5 times that of Blue Star. There are a lot of natural radioactive substances on the planet. Its original energy and the nuclear energy of natural radioactive decay make Yangxing a sea of fire. There are a lot of active volcanoes on the surface of the planet, and the air can burn people to death. In addition, 91% of the atmosphere of Yangxing is composed of carbon dioxide, as well as sulfur dioxide, sodium chloride, sulfur monoxide, etc. The thickness of Yangxing's atmosphere exceeds 500 kilometers, the surface temperature reaches 670 degrees Celsius, and the atmospheric pressure is 220 times that of Blue Star. Xiao Yu was quite surprised. This Yangxing is a super-plus version of Venus in the solar system, which is bigger and more violent. Next, he focused on understanding the human geography information of Blue Star. He had to have a rough idea of these in his mind because they were related to his next activities in the Blue Star world. It's really too similar to the Earth. According to the data, the diameter of Blue Star is about 13,237 kilometers, the surface area is about 550 million square kilometers, the gravity standard value is 0.99, and the atmosphere of Blue Star contains moderate levels of greenhouse gases. The land area accounts for 34%, about 187 million square kilometers, and the ocean area accounts for 66%, about 363 million square kilometers. The main geographical features of Blue Star are 5 major continents, 4 oceans, 2,855 lakes, 7 medium and large deserts, 2 large tropical rainforests, and 8 major large mountain ranges over 1,000 kilometers, of which the longest mountain range is over 9,200 kilometers. Xiao Yu looked at the world map of Blue Star. The 5 continents are called Arctic, Yanzhou, Shazhou, Zhizhou and Zhongzhou, and the 4 oceans are the East Ocean, West Ocean, Yan'ang and Southern Ocean. Oh. Am I currently in Zhongzhou? Xiao Yu muttered to himself. According to the human geography information of Blue Star, Zhongzhou has a total area of 82.7825 million square kilometers. There are dozens of countries in this continent, among which there is a major country called the Kingdom of Heaven, also known as the Celestial Empire, or simply the Kingdom of Heaven. It occupies the best land in Zhangzhou. The capital of the Kingdom of Heaven is located at 34 degrees north latitude and 113 degrees east longitude of Blue Star. Ah! What? The capital city is suspended directly in the sky above 3,000 meters above sea level with a superconducting suspended mountain? Are you crazy? Is this how you use superconducting ore? Xiao Yu was shocked again, and even a little indignant. Room temperature superconducting materials are treasures on Earth. Information shows that the capital of the country is built on a super-suspended mountain called Xianshan. It is composed of several small natural suspended mountains that have been artificially intervened and merged. A super city named Xianju City is built on it and serves as the capital of the Kingdom of Heaven. Xiao Yu curiously opened another page and entered the keyword Xianju City to search. Clicked on a 2-minute short video introducing Xianju City. The huge Xianju City hangs high above the clouds. The capital of the sky presents a magnificent atmosphere of auspicious light and auspicious mist. From a distance, you can see a layer of light blue hemispherical curved light curtain that appears and disappears from time to time. That is the energy shield. It is not only a protective barrier for the city, but also isolates the air inside and outside the city. Within the city barrier, the temperature is suitable and there will be no altitude sickness because there is enough oxygen. With the protection of the shield barrier, people can breathe freely even when they are outdoors without wearing a breathing mask. Although it is thousands of meters above sea level, the temperature inside the city is suitable and it is not affected by wearing short sleeves. The city is extremely prosperous and magnificent. The entire capital city hangs in the sky. There are suspended mountains of different sizes at different spatial heights. There are villas, manors, luxury high-end communities, etc. on them. At first glance, it is something that only the rich can afford. This is an eye-opener. It's really an eye-opener. No wonder it's called the Kingdom of Heaven. The capital is built in the sky. Xiao Yu couldn't help but sigh after watching this video. Just watching the video is extremely shocking. Going to the capital of the Kingdom of Heaven to see it with your own eyes, the visual impact will definitely be even more shocking. After a long time, Xiao Yu put away his thoughts and closed all the page information. He thought secretly, I am still an illegal resident here. The most urgent thing is to get a legal identity on Blue Star. Otherwise, it will be extremely inconvenient to do anything, and there may be hidden dangers. Chapter 11, with that little salary, what's the point of playing with your life? How to solve the problem of illegal household on Blue Star gave Xiao Yu a headache for a while, and this problem is really not so easy to solve. Because there is no network of resources on Blue Star, if you go directly to the local government department to register your identity, if you ask about your original identity, address and other information, you probably can't lie. If you check the file information and find that there is no such person, you can quickly come to the conclusion that either you are lying or there is something else going on. Xiao Yu put on a breathing mask and went out of the house to walk around. He walked on the streets of the town and found that the lives of the lower masses on Blue Star were very difficult, and it was not easy to achieve food and clothing. It seems that the polarization between the rich and the poor in the central continent of Blue Star is very exaggerated, Xiao Yu said in his heart. He looked at the many people in the town who were working hard to fill their stomachs, and there was no light in his eyes. What Xiao Yu found ironic was that when he thought of the Xiandu in the short video he had watched before, the huge Xiandu city stood high in the clouds, with a good atmosphere of auspicious light and auspicious mist. The people living in the Xiandu city with a good environment were carefree, which formed a sharp contrast with the lower-class masses here. This information made Xiao Yu come to another conclusion. He became more and more convinced that on Blue Star, at least in Zhangzhou Xiangou, it must be a country where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. After a while, Xiao Yu learned a piece of news that surprised him. It turned out that Zhangzhou Xiangou was not a peaceful and prosperous country. At present, there were many armed forces rebelling against Xiangou. Many people who fled from the war zone became refugees and moved to the core control area of Xiangou. And Xiangou could not ignore it, let alone expel them too much, otherwise these refugees would become rioters and further strengthen the rebel forces. Xiangou would order the local city officials who poured in refugees to be responsible for comforting and resettling these people. It's a good idea to pretend to be a refugee fleeing from a war zone. It's hard to verify in a war-torn area. It shouldn't be a problem to make up a self-consistent but unverifiable story to get an identity, Xiao Yu thought secretly and decided to do it immediately. Apart from that, he couldn't think of a better way than this with his limited conditions. Xiao Yu turned on the holographic bracelet to check the relevant information, and then locked on a city called Xiao Yu. 700 kilometers northwest of the city is the war zone. Many people fled to Xiao Yu city from there. News reports said that the city is also accepting refugees from other places. That's it, Xiao Yu made a decision and didn't drag his feet. He planned to leave Qingyang town and go to Xiao Yu city. Xiao Yu spent 2,000 star yuan to buy a floating motorcycle. The learning cost of this means of transportation is not high, and there are no barriers to text and language. Almost anyone who can ride an electric bike on Earth can ride a floating motorcycle. About 2 hours later, Xiao Yu packed his bag, bought some oxygen and food, and left the town. He followed the map navigation to Xiao Yu city, which is about 270 kilometers away. It takes more than 3 hours to reach the destination. Xiao Yu stayed for a while on the way out of the town. According to some pictures and texts on the internet, including some news pictures, he also dressed himself in a refugee style based on the image of refugees. On the way to Xiao Yu city, Xiao Yu saw the scene in the wild. After walking hundreds of kilometers, how come there is no vegetation in the wild? The terrain does not look like a desert gobi. As for animals, there was nothing to see. However, considering the current atmospheric environment of Blue Star, there can be no animals. Even if there are, they will die from excessive carbon dioxide poisoning. Xiao Yu thought that the carbon dioxide concentration in the world of Blue Star should rise sharply in a short period of time. It must have been similar to that of the Earth before. If it is a long process, then the natives of Blue Star should be able to evolve a physique that adapts to this environment, and they don't need to wear a breathing mask. The current world of Blue Star should be due to some reason, which has led to a global mass extinction of species and even changed the atmospheric composition structure of Blue Star, causing the carbon dioxide content to soar, making it impossible for organisms to breathe and facing large-scale extinction. As intelligent life, humans on Blue Star have developed advanced technology. They use technical means to isolate the outdoor air, and the air produced by industrial technology can reduce the concentration of carbon dioxide and can breathe normally. Therefore, the lifestyle of humans on Blue Star has changed. They have to wear breathing masks and oxygen bags when going out, and their homes have to be closed and isolated from the outdoors. As a result, the air is no longer free, and breathing air has to be purchased. Xiao Yu didn't care too much. After all, as a human on Earth, he is a proper alien here. Although the technology on Blue Star is much more advanced than that on Earth, in terms of environment, Blue Star is far inferior to Earth. Xiao Yu didn't plan to live on Blue Star. He just wanted to be a two-world porter quietly, and use the technical advantages of Blue Star to go to Earth to expand his business. More than 3 hours later, Xiao Yu arrived in Xiao Yu city smoothly, which was already visible to the naked eye. As they got closer and closer to the city, as the news reported, refugees continued to come to the city, and Xiao Yu decisively and silently integrated into it. Soon after, police officers from Xiao Yu city were responsible for public security, and some on-duty personnel led the refugees into a huge fully enclosed temporary camp, which was similar to a greenhouse structure, but very large and isolated from the outside air. They could breathe normally without wearing a breathing mask inside, because the purified air would be continuously released inside. Xiao Yu, disguised as a refugee, silently followed others into a temporary camp, and also received some food made from industrial starch, which also contained basic trace elements needed by the human body. The food received was not enough to fill them up, but it could ensure that they would not starve to death, because if they could eat enough, many people on the poverty line would just lie down and wait to receive relief food. As for fresh fruits and vegetables, poultry, eggs and meat, don't even think about it. These foods are expensive luxuries on Blue Star. Ordinary people are reluctant to eat several times a year, and usually they rely on industrial starch as their staple food, and it is not cheap. For the lower class people here, more than half of their income is spent on buying food as a rigid expenditure. Xiao Yu took off his breathing mask, sniffed the food he received, and then quietly put it back in his pocket, looking as if he was reluctant to eat it, but in fact he really couldn't eat it. About half an hour later, Xiao Yu found a group of people running to the refugee gathering point. It turned out that there was a factory recruiting workers here. These homeless refugees were all cheap labor, and most of those who could escape were young and strong. The refugees immediately rushed up, all vying to take a job. Some people were even willing to do it for 200 star yuan a month with only food and accommodation. Many industrial production activities can be done by machines, but if the labor cost is lower, the bosses are more willing to use people. Obviously, these refugees have no bargaining rights, and the bosses certainly like such cheap labor. Xiao Yu naturally would not apply for the job. He turned to find the identity registration office. After queuing for more than 2 hours, it was finally his turn. Sure enough, he successfully obtained the legal identity of Blue Star. And it was simpler and more direct than he thought. The staff of the office just formally asked Xiao Yu where he was from and what his occupation was. Then they just registered and processed it directly, without verifying the authenticity of the information Xiao Yu said orally. They quickly completed the process and didn't care whether there were spies or the like who infiltrated. Even if there were really rebels and they were identified, the people in the office would pretend not to find out. If they were really exposed, they would probably be killed on the spot. With that little salary, what's the point of playing with life? However, this made Xiao Yu obtain the legal status of a citizen of Zhongzhou Heavenly Kingdom very smoothly. About 3 hours later, Xiao Yu confirmed that his identity was activated. Now he can go to major cities in the Heavenly Kingdom, including Xianji City, provided that he has money. Xiao Yu immediately decided to leave Xiaoan City. He obtained his identity here as a refugee, and he certainly couldn't move around here. After successfully obtaining legal status, he didn't stay in the city for too long. He opened 3 bank accounts here and went to the airport, bought a ticket and took a flight to another city. Chapter 12, Ridiculously Cheap Price. Fengquan City. Xiao Yu took a flight of 2,370 kilometers to this city called Fengquan. There are still more than 20,000 star yuan, which should be enough for the time being. Xiao Yu looked at the cash balance of star yuan in his hand, and confirmed that there was no problem, so he found a residential area in the city to rent a house. After settling down, Xiao Yu rented a temporary warehouse in the outer area of the city. Renting a warehouse is naturally for the purpose of moving food products from the earth, and also preparing to move graphene materials from Blue Star to the earth. Finally it's over, Xiao Yu returned to the rented house and lay down in the living room to rest. Unknowingly, he has been tossing around on Blue Star for more than 10 hours, but he has also done a lot of things. Xiao Yu is obviously a person with strong execution. After resting for a while, Xiao Yu turned over and sat with his back against the sofa, while turning on the holographic bracelet to search for the price of graphene materials on the Blue Star internet. You can order directly online. Xiao Yu was shocked when he saw the price. Ultra-high purity graphene material, only 3,500 star yuan per kilogram. This price is ridiculously cheap. Graphene on Blue Star is sold by kilogram, while graphene on Earth is sold by gram. However, even if it is the same graphene material, the price difference is huge due to the purity and quality. On Earth, low-purity graphene may only cost a few dozen yuan per gram, but high-purity graphene can cost more than 5,000 yuan, or even more than 10,000 yuan. Xiao Yu saw that the graphene material sold on the page was of ultra-high purity quality, with a purity of 99.999999999%. He counted it and found that the purity level was 9 nines after the decimal point. The highest purity of graphene produced by humans on Earth is only 6 nines after the decimal point, while the ultra-high purity graphene produced on Blue Star can reach 9 nines after the decimal point, which is 100 times higher than the highest purity graphene produced on Earth. The most important thing is that Blue Star can also mass-produce it, and there is no technical barrier. Xiao Yu couldn't help but sigh. Such ultra-high purity graphene materials would be sold at a sky-high price on Earth, but here they are only sold for 3,500 star yuan per kilogram, which means 1 gram only costs 3.5 star yuan. The purchasing power of star yuan here has been roughly estimated before. Spending 1 star yuan here is equivalent to spending 1.5 yuan on Earth. In other words, this ultra-high-quality graphene material is equivalent to 5.25 yuan per gram. It is absolutely a dimensionality reduction attack to sell this material on Earth, and the spread can reach 1 or 2,000 times. Xiao Yu looked at the remaining 17,000 star yuan in his hand, and decided to go to the offline store to buy 1 kilogram of this ultra-high purity graphene material, which is easy to buy on Blue Star. As long as it is in a big city, there are basically offline stores selling it, and the starting price is as low as 1,000 grams, because they are all fully sealed. Xiao Yu successfully bought a box of graphene weighing 1,000 grams. After returning to the rental house, he opened the teleportation stargate to return to Earth, and also brought the 1,000 grams of ultra-high-purity graphene material he bought back to Earth. Putting the 1,000 grams of ultra-high-purity graphene material in the safe, Xiao Yu walked out of his bedroom and looked around the villa but didn't see the housekeeper Qin Yu. He was busy arranging warehouse matters for Xiao Yu and was not at home at the moment. Xiao Yu called him directly, and when he got through, he said, "Uncle Qin, prepare some materials I need for me. I have sent them to you. Just buy them." After hanging up the phone, Xiao Yu paced back and forth in the living room for a while, thought for a while, and then came to the basement of the villa. Next, Xiao Yu started to get busy, moving all the items in the largest room in the basement to the next room. He wanted to leave the room vacant and make a temporary dust-free environment. The purpose of doing this was to use ultra-high-purity graphene materials to personally make an experimental mobile phone screen made of the material. For him, he had both the financial conditions and the technical ability. He had led a team to study semiconductor display materials at Prism Technology. Xiao Yu's plan was to make a sample of the graphene screen and then use a smartphone release on the market, such as Apple, Xiaomi, Huawei, or Blue Green Factory. Get a mobile phone and remove the original mobile phone screen, replace it with a graphene full screen of the corresponding size, hide the front camera of the mobile phone under the screen, and then use it to demonstrate a full screen concept with samples. This was very simple for Xiao Yu. After all, graphene materials were already available, and with his technical ability and manual ability, plus Blue Star's technical information, it was almost like copying homework, so there was basically no problem. This ultra-high purity, high-quality graphene material obtained from Blue Star has a purity of 99% with 9 decimal places after it, which is close to pure single substance and new materials without any impurities. In order to make the sample of graphene screen, Xiao Yu decided to make it in a dust-free environment. The underground warehouse was vacant, and then the housekeeper Qin Yu brought back some purchased instruments and equipment materials, and the clean room environment was built to unpack the 1,000 grams of ultra-high purity graphene material. 3 days later, the clean room of the underground warehouse was completed, and Linghan New Materials Company was successfully established. Xiao Yu did not rush to make the graphene screen sample, but came to the warehouse arranged by Qin Yu. "You go back, I can do it myself here." Xiao Yu entered the warehouse and saw that there were already various fruits and grains in the warehouse. He was very satisfied. The housekeeper Qin Yu was very efficient and did his best. Qin Yu nodded. Although he didn't know why the young patriarch was doing all this, he did everything he said. "Just park the car here, I can drive back later," Xiao Yu added. Qin Yu nodded again and turned to walk out of the warehouse. Xiao Yu went to close the warehouse door tightly, and at the same time turned on a laptop computer he brought with him, entered the real-time monitoring camera backstage inside the warehouse, and turned off all the cameras in the warehouse. After finishing these things, Xiao Yu glanced at the forklift next to him and the trolley for loading and unloading goods, then retracted his gaze, called up a holographic panel on the teleportation star ring on his wrist, confirmed that the coordinates on the Blue Star side were the temporary warehouse rented by Fenquin City, and then decisively opened the teleportation star gate. After a while, the teleportation star gate opened smoothly, and Xiao Yu adjusted the size of the star gate so that it was large enough for 2 forklifts to pass through in parallel. Next, he prepared to carry 500 kilograms of watermelons over, and directly used a trolley. The quantity is not large now, and it won't take much time for Xiao Yu to carry them one by hand. However, if the quantity is in the tens of thousands of tons in the future, he can only rely on robots to help. At present, it is not necessary to use such a large scale, and it can be handled completely. Xiao Yu carried 500 kilograms of watermelons over. He also came to the warehouse in Fenquin City, Blue Star, and then closed the teleportation star gate. After a while, Xiao Yu had almost rested and contacted the boss Liu in Qingyang town. He had his contact information before. He opened the holographic bracelet, and a holographic display panel floated on the bracelet, indicating that the communication request was being received. Xiao Yu had no plan to have any dealings with boss Liu before, but now he decided to do this business, mainly because he didn't have many connections now. After waiting for a few seconds, Boss Liu appeared on the holographic panel, and Xiao Yu had a video call with him. "Boss Liu, do you still want the goods?" Boss Liu immediately said, "Of course, Mr. Xiao, I have been waiting for your news." Hearing this, Xiao Yu smiled and said, "Then you can come to Fenquin City to pick up the goods today. There are about 500 kilograms of goods. Go to Fenquin City to pick up the goods?" Boss Liu was stunned for a moment, but then replied, "No problem, I will fly over now." "Mr. Xiao, are you going to settle in cash this time? I need so much cash at once, I have to make an appointment with the bank first." Xiao Yu said, "That's not necessary, just transfer it online." Boss Liu said immediately, "Okay, I will go there right away, and I will contact you when I arrive in Fenquin City." Chapter 13. I didn't know the difference when I calculated it, but I was shocked. The first thing Xiao Yu did after getting a legal identity in Taiyuan City was to open several bank accounts. Naturally, he didn't need to take cash anymore, and 2 of the accounts were anonymous. Financial institutions on Blue Star have such financial services, which Xiao Yu was very happy to see. If it was a real name account, a lot of wealth would suddenly appear. If someone noticed and asked about it, it would be very troublesome, and he would have to find a way to launder it. An anonymous account saves a lot of trouble. Xiao Yu opened 2 anonymous accounts, one from a large bank in the Kingdom of Heaven, and the other from a multinational financial giant company headquartered in Zizhao. Zizhao continent is located in the western hemisphere of Blue Star. About 60% of the land on this continent is north of the equator in the western hemisphere, with a total area of 45.3406 million square kilometers and 67 countries of all sizes. But an organization called the Pan-Atlantic Business Community, PWBC, is above the countries of Zizhao. 55 countries in Zizhao have joined the organization, and PWBC is also the existence that dominates the west of Blue Star. When Xiao Yu was surfing the internet on Blue Star, he read some rumors on the internet, saying that the PWBC organization was the actual ruling group of Zizhao, and the real decision-makers of the PWBC organization were the so-called 10 super business groups behind the scenes. Xiao Yu was not very interested in these things on Blue Star. He just learned about them casually and did not go into depth. About 5 or 6 hours later, Boss Liu arrived in Fenquin City and contacted Xiao Yu again, who gave him the specific address. After waiting for about half an hour, Boss Liu arrived at the warehouse. "Mr. Xiao, I'm sorry to have kept you waiting." Boss Liu greeted Xiao Yu warmly when he saw him. After a few pleasantries, Xiao Yu took Boss Liu directly to the warehouse. When he saw the watermelons piled in the warehouse, his eyes lit up. Okay, they're all goods of excellent quality." Boss Liu turned his head to look at Xiao Yu, pretending to be curious, and asked tentatively, "Mr. Xiao, you should have more than these goods, right?" Xiao Yu smiled and said, "Haha, it seems that Boss Liu has a big appetite. Don't worry, there's endless business." Boss Liu was secretly surprised. The other party's words obviously meant that there was still goods. He turned and laughed and nodded repeatedly. "That's right, but if you have goods to sell, you can contact me at any time." Xiao Yu still smiled. "Okay, Boss Liu, please check this batch of goods first." After a while, Boss Liu called the 2 men he had called over to scan and inspect the goods. They soon confirmed that there was no problem with the goods. The weight after scanning was 527 kilograms. Finally, Xiao Yu asked, "Boss Liu, is there any problem with the goods?" Boss Liu nodded repeatedly. No problem, your goods are of excellent quality." Xiao Yu smiled and said, "Okay, let's make the deal at the previous price, 280 star yuan per 100 grams. Boss Liu shook his head and said, "Mr. Xiao, you are flattering me by giving me such a large order. Your goods are of such good quality. I can make too much money at the price of 280 star yuan. I think we should make the deal at 300. Obviously, Boss Liu wanted to expand the business between the 2 parties and make it long-term, so he took the initiative to be polite. In Boss Liu's opinion, Xiao Yu must be an extraordinary person to be able to come up with so many goods with excellent quality. If he could get this connection, Boss Liu felt that he would definitely take off. This kind of product is not worried about selling at all. It doesn't matter if the price is a little higher. If the sales volume increases, you can make a lot of money. The most important thing is to look at the long term. Xiao Yu certainly understood the other party's intention. After hearing what he said, he immediately smiled calmly and said, "Boss Liu is so sincere, I will not refuse it. Hearing this, Boss Liu was immediately very happy. If the other party nodded and accepted it, there would definitely be bigger business in the future. Boss Liu also settled the account on the spot and transferred the money to the designated account given by Xiao Yu, Mr. Xiao, the total is 790,500. Please check it. Xiao Yu called up a display panel on the holographic bracelet, logged into the anonymous financial account and took a look. It showed that a fund transfer had just been received, and the balance was 790,500 star yuan. Well, I got it. It's a pleasure to cooperate with you, Boss Liu. Wait for menus on the next batch of goods. Xiao Yu turned off the display panel, smiled and said, and shook hands with Boss Liu. Boss Liu is quite good at dealing with things, and Xiao Yu doesn't mind having long-term business dealings in the future. Boss Liu called his men who came with him to drive a floating transport vehicle to the door of the warehouse, and then move the 500-pound watermelon to the vehicle. Mr. Xiao, I wonder how much the next batch of goods will be? I also need to prepare advance funds. While watching his two men carrying the goods, Boss Liu talked to Xiao Yu, who smiled and said, how much can Boss Liu take? Hearing this, Boss Liu couldn't help but hesitate. Hearing Xiao Yu's tone, it seemed that he could provide as much as he could take, so Boss Liu couldn't help but ask tentatively. 5 tons. Xiao Yu smiled and said, okay, I'll ask the headquarters to transfer 5 tons of goods later. As soon as this was said, Boss Liu was shocked and couldn't help but lower his voice and said, Mr. Xiao, you are not kidding, right? 5 tons of goods are worth 15 million star yuan, and Boss Liu can't take out so much money. He has to mortgage money in advance to get it. Xiao Yu smiled and asked back, why? Boss Liu can take it? I was planning to quote you 50 tons. What? 50 tons? Boss Liu was stunned. Who is this person? He only dared to think about the supply of 5 tons of goods, but he dared not even think about 50 tons. According to the transaction price of 300 star yuan per 100 grams, that is an astronomical figure of 150 million. Boss Liu, who recovered from the shock, said hurriedly, 50 tons of goods, I definitely can't handle it now, but 5 tons is no problem. Hearing this, Xiao Yu immediately said, that's settled. Next time you trade, Boss Liu, you should prepare the funds for 5 tons of goods. I don't want accounts receivable here. Boss Liu was overjoyed and nodded repeatedly. Okay, no problem, of course, I will prepare 15 million later. At this moment, Boss Liu was more and more convinced that there must be a big force behind Xiao Yu. Although he was curious, since Xiao Yu didn't say much, Boss Liu was also very tactful and didn't dare to ask more questions. In the end, the goods were loaded on the transport truck. Boss Liu chatted with Xiao Yu for a few words and then said goodbye and left. Xiao Yu closed the warehouse and glanced at the 790,000 star yuan in his account again. The 500-pound watermelon was bought for only 700 yuan on Earth. If the conversion ratio is 1.5, 790,000 star yuan is about 1.18 million yuan, which is equivalent to a 1,691-fold interest rate difference. Although star yuan is waste paper on Earth, if you use these 790,000 star yuan to buy the ultra-high-quality graphene material, you can buy 225 kilograms. If you trade this graphene material to Earth, this ultra-high-quality and pure graphene material can definitely be sold at a price of tens of thousands of yuan per gram on Earth. Even if it is 5,000 yuan per gram, it can still be sold at a terrifying price of 1.125 billion. And this is just the graphene material that was exchanged for the watermelon bought for 700 yuan. It is not just a 1,691-fold interest rate difference, but a more than 1.6 million-fold interest rate difference. If you don't calculate it, you won't know. After such a conversion, the number obtained shocked Xiao Yu himself. Chapter 14, You dare to say that, but I don't dare to believe it. Xiao Yu felt that just by dealing with this ultra-high purity graphene material, he could create a world-class technology giant on Earth in a few years, because he was the only one on the entire Earth who could exclusively supply this new material, which was an absolute monopoly. And there was no worry about selling it at all. This ultra-high-quality purity graphene new material had too many application fields. Especially when the price was lowered, it was in short supply. Even if the price was 50 yuan per gram, it would still be an epic profit, because the cost of getting the goods on Blue Star was ridiculously low, and there was no tariff. Xiao Yu put away these thoughts and began to think about how to arrange the next matters. Leaving this warehouse and renting several new warehouses anonymously in Fenquin City, this was very convenient on Blue Star. Many things could be done anonymously. No wonder it was so easy to get an identity in Taiyuan City before. At first, Xiao Yu thought that the Blue Star world was as strict as his hometown Earth, but he didn't expect it to be so relaxed. Although he didn't know what the underlying logic was, after all, there would definitely be a lot of great transactions. But thinking that this was not a peaceful world, there were people who opposed the creation of heaven, so it was not strange. Xiao Yu did not study it much. Existence is reasonable. Such loose control is welcome. It is easier to move around on Blue Star and more convenient to trade between Blue Star and Earth. After building several new warehouses, Xiao Yu anonymously placed orders to purchase a total of 500 kilograms of graphene materials of different qualities and purity, spending 700,000 star yuan. The purity of graphene materials is different, and the price is different. The higher the purity, the higher the price. Xiao Yu did not feel bad at all. It was too easy for him to make star yuan. When the funds on Boss Liu's side were prepared, he could get 15 million star yuan by trading 5 tons of watermelons. This money came easily, just like the wind. And it won't be long before making money on Earth is also easy. With the ability to freely shuttle between the two worlds, Xiao Yu's business on Earth is equivalent to having the black technology support of the entire Blue Star behind him. Matters on Blue Star have come to an end for the time being. After receiving a batch of purchased graphene materials, Xiao Yu temporarily placed them in a private warehouse in Fenquin City. After finishing these things, the focus was shifted back to Earth. The next thing to do was to settle the cause and effect grievances with the investors. 3 days later, Linzhou City. The housekeeper Qin Yu came to the basement of the villa and stood outside the modified clean room. Xiao Yu had already produced a sample of graphene screen that could be used for mobile phone display. "Sir, Ms. Wen Suking is waiting for you in the living room," Qin Yu reminded Xiao Yu when he saw him coming out. The latter nodded, took off the clean clothes and handed them to Qin Yu, and went directly to the living room upstairs. Wen Suking, who was sitting on the sofa in the living room waiting, saw Xiao Yu coming over, looked up at him and smiled and said, "My team and I have tailored a complete set of feasible solutions for you, take a look." As he said that, he took out a document he brought and put it on the table. Xiao Yu took it up and sat down to open and browse. In the end, Xiao Yu was very satisfied. After closing the materials, he looked at Wen Suking and smiled. "Your plan is quite damaging, but I like it. It's very good. It's just that the shareholders who take over the last baton will suffer. They will definitely not be able to bear it and will be cut into the basement below the floor price." Wen Suking said, "There is no way. It can only be said that it is purely accidental injury. Unless you don't intend to retaliate against Penghu Capital and other investors, it is unavoidable." Xiao Yu immediately said, "It is definitely impossible not to retaliate. As for the shareholders, it is purely accidental injury as you said. Investment is risky. If they can withstand the drastic fluctuations in this special time window, the returns in the future will definitely be unimaginably rich." Wen Suking suddenly smiled and teased, "I suggest that you be careful when going out during this period. Be careful that shareholders will ambush you offline and beat you up." Hearing this, Xiao Yu nodded seriously. "Well, that makes sense. We still have to do this expectation management. I don't want to be beaten up by shareholders in an offline real-life PK while walking on the road." Wen Suking said, "You are so sure? I want to buy some of your company's stocks privately and make a lot of money by ambush. Your company's stock price has recently hit a new historical low, and has fallen to 3.86 yuan. The market value is only 3.35 billion yuan. If I ambush at this time, the market value will rise to 26.5 billion, and I can make 6 or 7 times the profit. It's hard not to be tempted." Objectively speaking, Wen Suking is also a person who knows inside information. Moreover, she is a professional lawyer. She can make money by taking advantage of the information gap without finding any faults, and she will make everything reasonable, compliant and legal. Xiao Yu, who was leaning back on the sofa, immediately crossed his legs and looked into Wen Suking's eyes. "That's not necessary. If you can join my company and become the legal officer of Prism Technology, as an important strategic talent, I will directly give you shares." Wen Suking heard this and immediately said jokingly, "You want to get it for free? You are calculating." Xiao Yu smiled, "Not really." Wen Suking smiled and said, If you want me to work for you, I want a lot, Xiao Yu calmly replied. I'm not afraid of you asking for too much, I'm just afraid that you are unwilling to come. If Wen Suking was really interested, Xiao Yu would be happy to hire her at a high price, but her career was booming in the Beijing circle, and she might not be willing to come to Linsao City. At this time, Wen Suking pretended to be curious and said, now that you mention it, I'm interested. Xiao Yu thought for a moment and said, I have an option plan. You may consider it after this matter is settled. If the market value of Prism technology can reach more than 600 billion in 3 years, I will give you a 2.5% equity ratio. If the company's market value is lower than 600 billion in 3 years, I will give you a compensatory increase in the equity ratio. Wen Suking was greatly surprised when these words came out. She didn't expect Xiao Yu to be so confident. A market value of 600 billion is an astronomical figure, not 60 million. Wen Suking stared straight at Xiao Yu, who was extremely confident. The company's market value is expected to be 600 billion or even 1 trillion. You dare to say that, but I don't dare to believe it. I am more and more curious about what new technology you have invented. Hearing this, Xiao Yu smiled indifferently. It is the mass production technology of ultra-high purity graphene materials. According to the current market price, each gram can be sold for tens of thousands of yuan. Graphene materials themselves are not new. Maybe you have heard of them. Wen Suking nodded. Graphene, I heard about it a long time ago. It is said to be the king of new materials. Xiao Yu then said, there are many companies that can prepare graphene materials, but there are not many companies that can prepare high-quality purity. As for the company that mass-produces ultra-high purity quality graphene materials, there is currently no company. This is also one of the reasons why the material will be sold at a sky-high price. Scarcity makes things valuable, and I have exclusively mastered the mass production technology of this high-purity new material. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 15, Penghu Capital's Secret Attention. As the saying goes, different trades are like different mountains. Wen Suking was not really clear about the value of Xiao Yu's words, but she also understood that the premium of innovative high-tech was terrifying, especially the revolutionary technology, which often reshuffled a field. After a moment, Wen Suking said, if it's really as exaggerated as you said, I really can't refuse it. Xiao Yu smiled and said, it doesn't matter. I'm not telling you to make an immediate decision, but just to give you a general expectation. But you have to keep the secret for the time being. If Zhou Beichuan and others from Penghu Capital learn about it, the plan you provided will become a waste case, and it will be difficult for me to avenge it. Wen Suking replied, that's natural. You told me about such a big thing, how can you not know the pros and cons? The two chatted for a while, communicated and decided to enter the specific execution process next. The first step is to raise the share price of Prism Technology to realize the market value of 26.5 billion. Winning the bet agreement is the premise, and the subsequent plans of the entire plan must be based on this premise. Only by winning the gambling agreement, the agreement on the right of first sale will be gone, and Xiao Yu will no longer be constrained, and you can have absolute control over Prism Technology. Any decision of the company can be passed if he agrees, and it cannot be passed if he disagrees. Penghu Capital Headquarters. Have you found out? What exactly is Xiao Yu doing with Linghan New Materials recently? At this time, Zhou Beichuan, the head of Penghu Capital, asked the subordinates who reported to him. The capital was obviously paying attention to Xiao Yu and knew that he had recently registered and established a new company. The subordinate who came to report the situation replied, we are currently unable to analyze Xiao Yu's motive for this action. Judging from the basic information of Linghan New Materials, this is a company that researches new materials such as graphene. Zhou Beichuan pondered for a moment, with a somewhat suspicious look on his face, and said to himself, could it be that Xiao Yu realized that he could not complete the gambling agreement and wanted to play a trick of changing the cage and replacing the bird? His subordinates couldn't help but say when they heard this, we just found out that Xiao Yu had divorced some time ago, and about 100 million yuan of property was divided into the name of his ex-wife Chu Jintang. This is very likely that Xiao Yu is playing a technical fake divorce to avoid his property being liquidated and frozen. Zhou Beichuan immediately concluded, "Be more confident, it's a fake divorce. Haven't you seen enough of this kind of thing? It seems that this kid has been secretly making the worst plan." After a moment, his subordinates asked, "The 100 million that was transferred away?" Zhou Beichuan stopped immediately. "No, just pretend you didn't see it. We have to leave him some assets to let him start over. Maybe he can get another hand in the future." As soon as he said this, his subordinates immediately praised him. Mr. Zhou, you are still thinking long term. This is like cutting once and wanting to fatten up and cut again. On the other hand, Zhou Beichuan is also optimistic about Xiao Yu's ability to make a comeback, and he also recognizes Xiao Yu's technical development capabilities. Zhou Beichuan's idea is to leave him some assets to start a business again, and then change a shadow vest to continue to finance him. Even if Xiao Yu learns from his mistakes, if he makes a comeback, raises funds normally, and exits normally with principal and interest in the future, he will get a considerable return. However, Zhou Beichuan was more concerned about the current situation at the moment, and immediately asked his subordinates, "Is there any connection between Linghan New Materials and Prism Technology? Have you found any problem of interest transfer?" The subordinate shook his head and replied, "The current information shows that Xiao Yu did not transfer any interests from it, and even the establishment of Linghan New Materials did not use any resources of Prism Technology at all." Zhou Beichuan flashed a look of surprise. Strange, is he really resigned to his fate and not struggling? He just wants to set up another company and start over, the subordinate said. "I think it is possible. After all, he is bound to lose the gambling agreement. He should also know this. The current share price of Prism Technology is just over 4 yuan, and it is impossible for it to soar 6 or 7 times in the remaining period. Besides, if he can really do it, my Penghu Capital can also make more money, and there is no way to lose." Zhou Beichuan's brows relaxed and he nodded with satisfaction. "That's right, Prism Technology stock price soared, and Penghu Capital made a lot of money. Prism Technology stock price was flat, and Penghu Capital could still make a lot of money by eating up Xiao Yu and kicking him out. It was a win-win situation." Zhou Beichuan ordered, "But you still have to keep an eye on it. I'm curious about what tricks this kid can play." On the other side, Xiao Yu was not idle either. In the following days, his focus was basically on the layout of Linghan New Materials Company according to the plan, and the company's employees were also constantly expanding. Xiao Yu now has the technology to mass-produce graphene, and can also customize equipment and instruments on Earth to produce it, and use the graphite ore on Earth to refine it, but it can't reach the ultra-high-quality graphene materials of Blue Star, because the performance of the production and equipment on Earth can't keep up, which takes time to upgrade the entire industrial chain. However, Linghan New Materials still needs to get some equipment on Earth, so that when it comes out with graphene products later, it can reasonably trace the source, and then transfer equipment technology from Blue Star to slowly upgrade the industrial system, so that it can directly produce independently on Earth. At present, it still needs some effort to build this so-called product line, and it must be highly confidential. Even employees working in groups cannot ask each other about the details of their work, and they must sign a strict confidentiality agreement. Some so-called key technical links are directly completed by unmanned equipment, and people cannot participate in them. The entire product line is a false appearance. The purpose is to cover up the fact that graphene was obtained from Blue Star, so that the production details can be kept absolutely confidential so that outsiders cannot know, thereby covering up the graphene materials that were transferred from Blue Star. At that time, people outside will only think that Linghan New Materials Company's technical confidentiality for mass production of graphene is too good, and it is impossible for people to explore its mass production technology principles. Villa Basement. Xiao Yu is carrying out the first step of the plan, hyping up the heat, buying hot searches for marketing, and pushing up the heat. This requires marketing materials, and at this time he is recording video materials in person. Xiao Yu, wearing a white dust-free suit and dust-free gloves, shows a flexible screen of graphene material that he has already made in front of the camera of the video recording, and puts it in front of the camera and bends it repeatedly to show its flexibility and light transmittance. Graphene materials are widely used. For example, in the mobile phone industry, it can greatly improve the performance of existing mobile phones and reduce costs. It can replace the transparent indium tin oxide conductive layer widely used in liquid crystal display touch panels, and can be used in other high-frequency electronic components. In the design of future concept mobile phones, graphene can be applied to circuit boards, flexible materials, and integrated multi-phone sensing platforms. As a structure composed of carbon, this new material, graphene, is not only unprecedentedly thin, but also the first material composed of a single layer of atoms discovered by humans on Earth. It is also very strong and the carbon atom structure is very stable. In terms of thermal conductivity, it surpasses all other materials currently known on Earth. It is almost completely transparent and soft, but its atoms are arranged so tightly that even helium with the smallest molecular structure cannot penetrate it. From electronic products to bulletproof vests and papermaking and even biomedical fields, graphene materials have a huge space for both commercial and military use. For example, single-molecule gas detection, graphene nanoribbons, transparent conductive electrodes, thermoconductive materials, thermal interface materials, supercapacitors, biological devices, replacing silicon to produce supercomputers, and used in lithium battery technology, etc. Many industries and fields. Xiao Yu recorded the video material, and then edited it, and made several short video materials to hand over to Wensu-King's team. According to the plan, she would use her connections in the Beijing circle to contact a professional and trustworthy marketing team to arrange this matter, buy hot searches, and increase the popularity to hype this matter. Chapter 16, Initial Fermentation Leads to Heated Discussion. Xiao Yu took out a newly bought smartphone, a Huawei P40 Pro phone that has just been on the market for more than a year. When waking up the phone screen in front of the camera that records the video material, the original P40 Pro's front camera is neither a notch screen nor a polar screen, but a small rectangle in the upper left corner. Now all mobile phones on the market cannot achieve a true 100% full screen, unless the front camera is not needed, but this is obviously impossible. But at this moment, the P40 Pro phone in Xiao Yu's hand, which he modified, is a completely full screen at the moment the screen is awakened. The front camera disappears and the front of the entire phone is a 100% complete screen. The original screen of the phone was removed by him and replaced with a new screen made of ultra-high purity graphene material, and the front camera is completely hidden under the screen. Xiao Yu opened the camera application and switched to the front camera for shooting and recording. The imaging effect of the photos and videos taken is not inferior to that of the on-screen camera at all. The two cannot be distinguished at all when compared. After a while, Xiao Yu finally finished the video material and left the underground library. He edited the material into several short videos and sent them directly to Wensu-King. She had arranged a professional team to hype up the popularity. The next few days happened to be the May Day holiday. The stock market was closed during the holiday, so there was enough time to ferment before the holiday. It was originally specially selected at such a time node. Graphene is known as the most subversive material in the 21st century. Linghan New Materials has made a revolutionary breakthrough and is far ahead. My country's technology companies have reached new heights. Mass production of high-purity quality graphene preparation technology has been born. Will graphene materials usher in a cabbage price era? Subversive new materials have made another technological breakthrough. The era of full screen in the true sense may be coming. Graphene flexible screen technology has ushered in a revolutionary breakthrough. The camera under the mobile phone screen has ushered in the dawn. Say goodbye to the extreme screen and bang screen, which is the gospel of obsessive-compulsive disorder. 2 days later, during the May Day holiday, the Douyin short video platform first appeared. The video recorded by Xiao Yu and began to spread. These short videos all use some very eye-catching and gimmicky titles, and then add some brief text introductions, and then add some surging BGM or something. The eyeball effect is directly pulled to the maximum. When Xiao Yu was recording the video material, his voice was also processed by a professional team and turned into a sound quality similar to an interview, as if it was a live interview recording. In addition to the video, there are also a large number of small essays to cooperate. There was no movement in the first 2 days, but on the third day, the heat gradually increased. One of the short videos became popular and played a strong boosting effect. It was a demonstration of Xiao Yu using a Huawei P40 Pro mobile phone to replace the original screen with a full screen. This video caused heated discussions and rapid and large-scale dissemination on the internet. It must be said that the Huawei brand has brought a great blessing effect to the heat. Because last year Huawei's mobile phone sales just surpassed Apple to the top, but it was suppressed, and the game in the public opinion field was also fierce. On the fourth day, the heat went up a level. The scope of dissemination was further expanded, and it began to be paid attention to by the investment circle, including some stockholders. The next day was also the last day of the holiday on May 5th. A retail stockholder of A shares was bored and was watching short videos on Douyin with his mobile phone. He swiped quickly on the screen. He was stunned for a moment, and then swiped back a few short videos. Huh? Isn't this Xiao? How come he has a company called Linghan New City? What the hell is going on? The stockholder was very surprised. He took a closer look and recognized the man in the short video. It was Xiao Yu, the boss of Prism Technology. He knew him because he bought Prism Technology's stocks. After being locked up, he began to study the company's fundamentals, so he knew what Xiao Yu looked like. Speaking of which, the name Xiao Yu given by stockholders of Prism Technology depends on the stock price trend, from skyrocketing, big rise, small rise, fall, big fall, and dark fall. The stockholders' names for him also changed from Xiaoshan, Xiaoi, Xiaozong, Xiaoj, Xiaoyu, Xiaozi, and Xiaor. The stockholders who hold Prism Technology are losing money now. Xiao Yu has been downgraded by stockholders to the current Xiaor level. This retail investor bought Prism Technology at 10 yuan last year, thinking it had bottomed out, but he didn't expect it to break down and fall. He covered his position to reduce his costs, but he never expected it to fall all the way and hit a new low. At first he wanted to make money, but later he thought he would be satisfied with his investment, so he was gradually trapped. His current cost price is 8.57 yuan, and the latest closing price is 4.12 yuan. The accumulated floating loss is minus 51.29%, which is a halving state. This is the case of covering his position to reduce his costs. He has been stuck holding Prism Technology for more than a year, and some people have even been stuck for 2 years. Prism Technology has only been listed for 2.5 years since its backdoor listing. Is this true? Xiaor, have you figured out the mass production technology of high-purity graphene materials? This stockholder was shocked. Just when he was about to be happy, he saw that the technology was from Linghan New Materials Company. How dare Xiaoran do that? Why not Prism Technology? Fuck, he withdrew his happiness in a second and started to curse loudly. If this was Prism Technology's technology, wouldn't the stock price skyrocket? At the same time, many shareholders who saw the news online were discussing in the comments section of Prism Technology stock bar. The name of Linghan New Materials Company also appeared in the comments section, and someone even posted a screenshot of Xiao Yu's modified P40 Pro mobile phone with a full-screen camera under the screen. This stock has been falling for more than a year, and almost no one pays attention to it. It has no popularity. There are only a few new comments in the stock bar comments section in a day, and it is dead. But now it has become more lively than usual, with obviously many more new comments and messages. Wow, I sold it before the holiday, it won't fall before dawn, right? Can you be tough for once? I'm trapped. If there is good news at the bottom, it must be real good news, go for it. The cost of 13.79, a loss of minus 70%, it needs to increase by plus 234.7% to recover the cost. Xiaor, can you do it? Don't panic, I will be promoted from Xiaor to Xiaoi soon. Manually funny, it's so funny, can you see it more clearly? Let's not talk about whether this technology is real or not. Even if it is real, it has a trade relationship with Prism Technology. Xiaor has misled me too much. I have been stuck here for a year, and missed the big market of medicine, photovoltaics, and new energy. Photovoltaic new energy is not good either. It has been cut in half compared to Yeti. It's all a mess. Fuck, it's too much. I searched Linghan New Materials. It was just established not long ago. There must be something wrong. Xiaor must have moved this technology from Prism Technology to Linghan New Materials. Benefit transfer. I suggest the village to check. There must be benefit transfer. If this continues, Xiaor will probably be demoted to another level. What should I call him? Just call him Xiaotoad. Haha, this group is hopeless. Family members, run. Chapter 17, what tricks is this Xiao Yu playing? The next day, Thursday, May 6th. The May Day holiday was over. Xiao Yu, who had never paid much attention to stock prices, also turned on his computer this morning to check the stock price trend of his company. Affected by the continued fermentation of news during the May Day holiday, Prism Technology opened sharply higher today by plus 13.10%. The only relationship between Linghan New Materials and Prism Technology is that the founders of the two companies are Xiao Yu. Although they have the same boss, they are actually not related at all. But from the opening situation, it is obvious that it was stimulated by the holiday news and opened 13 percentage points higher. In the morning, the stock price of Prism Technology opened high and then plunged straight. Obviously, Linghan New Materials has attracted much attention during the holiday, but it has basically nothing to do with Prism Technology. The only relationship is that the founder and boss of the two companies are the same person. Under normal circumstances, it will affect the opening sentiment. The cunning stockholders who have the first move will directly smash the market and run away. During the lunch break, a short essay related to Prism Technology appeared. In the current self-media era, the speed of information dissemination is much faster than before. The short essay quickly spread and aroused many people's discussion, and the attention of Prism Technology soared rapidly. The content of the essay can be translated simply and directly into down-to-earth form. Linghan New Materials and Prism Technology are very likely to merge and reorganize. In the capital market, for a listed company, mergers and reorganizations are epic benefits. It's like Linghan New Materials is a young and beautiful girl, and she is also rich and beautiful. The merger and reorganization is equivalent to the marriage between Prism Technology and Linghan New Materials, just like a poor boy marries a rich woman, and the poor boy will definitely see a surge in his net worth. By the same token, if Prism Technology merges and reorganizes with Linghan New Materials, its net worth will also skyrocket. Previously, Prism Technology went public through a backdoor listing through mergers and acquisitions. After the stock was renamed Prism Technology, the stock price immediately soared from more than 7 yuan to more than 15 yuan, and it doubled easily in a row. At 1300 hours in the afternoon, the stock price time-sharing line of Prism Technology was like pulling onions from dry land at a vertical 90-degree angle. In less than 3 seconds, the stock price rose to 4.94 yuan, an increase of plus 19.90% to close the daily limit, and the market value rose to 4.287 billion yuan. At that time, Prism Technology sold more than 23 million funds at the daily limit price. The funds sold were basically retail investors, and they didn't know what was going on. They didn't see the rumored small essay news, so they sold it. The trading volume dropped sharply because the amount of funds on the daily limit reached an astonishing 570 million. The stockholders who sold at the daily limit price before also regretted it a little. With such a strong order, the feeling of selling out became stronger, but it was basically impossible to buy it back, unless the previous 570 million order funds were traded or the order was withdrawn and the board was blown up. If the board was blown up, they would definitely not dare to buy it. Seeing that the company's stock price reached the daily limit, Xiao Yu was very satisfied with a whole set of strategic plans provided by Wen Suking's team. According to the original plan, we first hyped up the popularity of Linghan New Materials during the May Day holiday. After the news drive fermented, it was the turn of Prism Technology to start operations. We first made some small essays to create rumors that Linghan New Materials and Prism Technology were going to merge and reorganize. This was done to form an expectation for the market and attract funds in the market to participate in the speculation. The next step is to see whether the market will buy it. If not, we will release more favorable news. After the share price of Prism Technology hit the daily limit, the popularity index soared straight, and the stock bar comment area became more lively. What's going on? Why did this stock go straight up? What's the good news? I didn't buy it. Damn, my thighs are swollen. I sold it at the auction in the morning, and I was complacent when it plunged, but I turned out to be the clown? What? There's news of merger and reorganization for this stock? I didn't see the announcement. The power of small essays is really strong. There are so many leaks, no need to look. It must be an industrial chain stock. Stay away from such a lousy stock. I bid in the morning when I was excited. The stock price plunged at the opening and I lost 10 points. I was disappointed. I didn't want to watch the market for a while. But when the market opened in the afternoon, I saw that I had turned from losing 10 points to making 10 points. This roller coaster feeling is too exciting. Covering face JPG, fuck, I didn't know there was such news. I saw that the stock price rose to the daily limit for no reason. I couldn't help but sell it with a profit of 18 points. I regret it so much. I was confused for a long time, but I couldn't help but sell it at 4.27. I'm speechless. The next day, Friday, May 7th. Prism Technology opened at 5.93 yuan in the call auction and directly opened the daily limit of plus 20.04%. The opening price was the highest price of the day. The daily limit was closed steadily all day and was not opened until the closing. The company's market value climbed to 5.147 billion yuan. The stockholders who sold yesterday regretted seeing the two consecutive daily limit ups. Two 20 centimeters level daily limit ups mean a profit of 44 points. And judging from the current closing trend, there will definitely be a lot of profit when the market opens next week. The stockholders who sold at a loss were heartbroken, especially those who could hold on when they were trapped before. They couldn't help but sell when the daily limit up yesterday because they were worried that the stock would fall back later. Now they are upset when they see the consecutive daily limit ups. What tricks is this Xiao Yu playing? Zhou Beichuan, the head of Penghu Capital, and people from several other capital institutions are discussing Xiao Yu's affairs together. There are several capital institutions that have set up a trap for Xiao Yu together, and there are also several major shareholders of Prism Technology. A middle-aged man on Zhou Beichuan's left said, "A new company has been established, and now there are rumors of a merger and reorganization with Prism Technology. The stock price has risen twice in 2 days. Does Xiao Yu want to use this gimmick to push up the stock price to complete the bet agreement?" Another person from an investment institution said immediately, "He has this motive, but if he really has this intention, haha, I can only say that he is still too young." Zhou Beichuan said in a deep voice, "No, these are not the point. The point is whether his Linghan new materials is a real gimmick, or does it really have the technology to mass-produce high-purity graphene materials? If it is true, it would be a big deal," the middle-aged man before immediately said. "Then why is he playing this merger and reorganization drama? The rumors in the market are most likely the work of Xiao Yu secretly planning." Several people present frowned. After a while, Zhou Beichuan said, "It is impossible to judge Xiao Yu's motives for the time being. Let's observe for a while. I have arranged for people to investigate Linghan new materials. The most critical point is to find out whether the high-purity graphene mass production technology that the company has spread is true or false. Other things can be put aside for later." This made several investors present not in agreement. Indeed, this is the most critical point of the problem. If it is true, the value of Linghan new materials is more than 10 or 20 times the current market value of Prism Technology. Chapter 18, Continue to release positive news, keep playing music and dancing. May 10th. It seems that we have to continue to release news to stimulate. Xiao Yu, who was paying attention to the stock price trend of his own company, saw that the stock price could no longer move. This was just the beginning, and it was still far from fulfilling the target market value and completing the gambling agreement. Prism Technology, which had risen by 220 centimeters daily limits, opened higher today by plus 19.73%, almost a daily limit, but still 2 cents away from the daily limit. It plunged at the opening. Without greater positive stimulation, it could no longer rise. The news of the merger and reorganization was passed on by Xiao, and it could reach nearly 320 centimeters level daily limits. The market was already very respectful. Xiao Yu decided to post a Weibo on his personal Weibo self-media account. Compared with the top bigwigs like Lei Jun, his account is a small karami, with no more than 100,000 fans, and he did not deliberately operate the account, which was normal. But it doesn't matter, the news will always spread. Xiao Yu knew that some shareholders who bought his company's stocks had paid attention to it, because some shareholders who were trapped went to Weibo to curse. After 2 p.m., Xiao Yu updated the edited blog post, but he did not mention the listed company Prism Technology in the article. Instead, he published an article related to Linghan New Materials as the boss of Linghan New Materials, focusing on the word stable. If Prism Technology is not mentioned, the market will spontaneously imagine it. This is called expectation management. There are many types of graphene, and each has different parameter indicators. Common single-layer graphene, few-layer graphene, and multi-layer graphene. The purity of graphene materials on the market is generally between 95% and 99.5%. The purity of graphene materials prepared by Linghan New Materials can reach up to 99.99999%, which is 5 nines after the decimal point. There is still huge room for improvement in the future. Generally speaking, 1 ton of graphite ore can be refined into about 50 grams to 200 grams of high-purity graphene products. The output is affected by the production process, and the output of different process technologies is also different. There are many ways to increase the output of graphene. The two most common methods are to increase the purity of graphite ore. The higher the purity of graphite ore, the greater the output of graphene extracted. The other is to optimize the production process technology. The output of graphene can be increased by optimizing the production process of mechanical exfoliation or chemical vapor deposition. Linghan New Materials' original preparation technology achieves exponential growth in output. At present, we have initially achieved that 4,500 grams of high-purity graphene can be extracted from 1 ton of graphite ore, which is more than 50 times higher than the industry average. This is still not our upper limit. Whether it is output or quality purity, there is still huge room for improvement in the future at the technical level. After Xiao Yu posted the Weibo, the stock price of Prism Technology did not react immediately. After all, he did not mention Prism Technology in the article, and the number of fans and traffic was not large. It was not a well-known big V, and the spread of information also took time. However, Prism Technology has gradually become more popular in recent days. More and more people are paying attention to the stock, and there is even some hot money with large capital volume. About 5 minutes after Xiao Yu sent out his Weibo, a hot money noticed his Weibo and immediately aroused his interest. Because he found that Xiao Yu, the boss of Prism Technology, was good at market expectation management. The content of the Weibo was very interesting. It seemed that Prism Technology was not mentioned at all, but now there are rumors in the market that Linghan New Materials and Prism Technology are merging and restructuring. The face is half covered with a loot, and the feeling of haziness is full, which leaves room for imagination and speculation. The hot money then privately chatted with 2 friends, who were also hot money. The 3 of them discussed and decided to go to Prism Technology to do a relay to turn the disagreement of the 3 boards into consensus. At that time, it was already the end of the afternoon, and the stock price of Prism Technology had weakened and was about to fall below the previous low of the day. But not long after, a large order of more than 5,000 lots suddenly appeared to ignite the stock price of Prism Technology, which was about to break the low before the early trading. It suddenly rose straight to plus 8.77%, and then it was sold again. This time, a large order of 10,000 lots appeared in the buying market to ignite the rise again. Many retail investors saw that Brother Wan Xiao came and began to follow suit, and the stock price quickly rose. After accumulating power for 5 minutes, the main funds directly came to a refueling relay. The time-sharing line of Prism Technology took advantage of the situation to launch the second attack wave, straight up 15%. At this time, another large order entered the market to take over. The time-sharing line went straight up to the limit price, and the stock price of Prism Technology reached 7.12 yuan, up plus 20.07% limit. In less than 3 seconds, the funds on the limit board reached 279 million. After the limit, it was directly blocked until the close. Today's transaction volume increased to 595 million, and the market value rose to 6.18 billion. Obviously, the funds recognized the rumors of mergers and reorganizations, which were half hidden and more imaginative, suitable for speculation. Hot money was willing to come in and speculate when seeing such targets, because junk stocks like Prism Technology can easily get pricing power, unlike those large-cap blue-chip stocks that are crowded with institutions. If you dare to pull up too much, the institutions can hit you dizzy. Today's daily limit is very critical. The popularity index soared rapidly and won the favor of large funds in the market. Xiao Yu was also quite satisfied to see that his company's stock rose to the daily limit in the late trading. Everything is going well and has not deviated from the expected plan. The next day, Tuesday, May 11th, at 9:25 in the morning, Prism Technology opened at 7.93 yuan, a large gap of plus 11.37%. After the opening, there was no return action, and it went straight up. In just less than 3 seconds, the share price of Prism Technology rose to 8.54 yuan, up plus 1994 to close the daily limit, advancing to the 4th consecutive limit with a volume of 170 million. It doubled in 4 days, with a cumulative increase of plus 107.28%. The company's market value has also climbed to a height of 7.412 billion. The stock bar comment area is already very lively, and many stockholders are active in the comment area or the bullet screen of the time-sharing interface of the market software. Sell, seriously sell, this stock has a demon. Go, 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 go all in, don't be timid, go all in. If there is another board, I can get rid of the trap. Can there be another board? Should I sell it now? I am afraid that it will rise, and I am even more afraid of falling back. My family is so entangled. Last Thursday, Xiao Tao was promoted to Xiao. Last Friday he was promoted to Xiao Z, and yesterday he was promoted to Xiao Yu. Can he be promoted to Xiao Jie today? Tomorrow he will be Xiao Zhuang, and the day after tomorrow he will be Xiao Yi, covering his face and crying with laughter. JPG, he really is crying. I cried to death. I sold at the first board at a high opening, and wanted to do a T at the end of the trading day to pick it up. Oh, he went straight to T, trapped me for half a year. If I didn't move, I would have recovered my investment yesterday and still made money. Alice, the life of a leak, crying blindly. I bought at 12 yuan and sold at 3.89. Who can I complain to? In the afternoon, Yun Shu, assistant to the chairman of Prism Technology, came to Xiao Yu's villa to report on his work. He had not been to Prism Technology during this period, but this did not mean that he had not paid attention to the company. Sitting on the sofa opposite Xiao Yu in the living room, Yun Shu reported, the exchange has sent an inquiry letter to our company, requesting it to verify and explain whether there are any corrections or supplements to the information disclosed by the company in the past, whether there is any undisclosed important information that may have had a significant impact on the company's stock trading price reported by the public media recently, whether there have been major changes in the company's operating conditions and internal and external operating environment. Yun Shu lowered her eyes and looked at the materials and continued, whether the company, controlling shareholder and actual controller have any major matters that should be disclosed but have not been disclosed, or major matters that are in the planning stage, whether the company, controlling shareholder and actual controller have any behavior of buying and selling the company stocks during the period of stock movement, whether there are other circumstances that violate the fair information disclosure regulations. Xiao Yu thought for a moment and looked at his assistant Yun Shu and instructed, a routine announcement will be made for abnormal stock price fluctuations. As for the inquiry letter, it will be postponed for a while. Go and prepare the materials and wait for my instructions. Yun Shu nodded and made a memo. After a while, she raised her eyes and looked at Xiao Yu. There are rumors that your two companies will merge and reorganize. Xiao Yu looked into her eyes and said slowly, you are a veteran member of the company. You have been working with me for less than 2 months since the company was founded. I trust you 100%. I am fighting with Zhou Beichuan and other investors, but you don't need to care about this matter and don't get involved. Just listen to my arrangements. Xiao Yu was very satisfied with Yun Shu, the assistant. Not only was she good-looking and pleasing to the eye, but she also had an outstanding temperament. Excellent ability in execution. Yun Shu nodded and said, I see. Is there anything else? Xiao Yu said concisely, manage the company for me. As the chairman's assistant, Yun Shu has great power in Prism Technology Company. She is a truly powerful executive. She is authorized by the chairman to handle company affairs and can perform her duties in the absence of the chairman. Xiao Yu, do your job. Yun Shu nodded again, yes. After answering, she said goodbye and left Xiao Yu's private villa. Chapter 19, How can this be a board meeting? It's clearly a notice. The next day, Wednesday, May 12th. At 9:52 in the morning, major market software pushed messages, the optical and optoelectronic sector strengthened, Prism Technology hit the daily limit for 5 consecutive days, with a cumulative increase of plus 148.78%. Spectrum shares, Yongsan Optics, Kyangzhou Optoelectronics and other stocks followed suit. The share price of Prism Technology rose to 10.25 yuan, with an increase of plus 20.02% and hitting the daily limit, and the market value climbed to 8.897 billion. Today, the week turned strong and hit the daily limit for 5 consecutive days. Prism Technology, which led the sector to fly, has suddenly become more recognizable in the market and directly rushed to the top of today's individual stock popularity index. Xiao Yu is also paying close attention to the stock price of his own company. He is calculating the time and subsequent plans in his mind. Now that the stock price has risen to 10.25 yuan, it is still early to lift the restrictions of the terms of the gambling agreement. According to the terms of the gambling agreement, the market value of Prism Technology must touch the 26.5 billion line, and the corresponding stock price must rise to 30.53 yuan, which means that it will have to rise nearly twice to complete. However, the current stock price trend is very strong, and it seems to be the leader in popularity in the A-share market this month. If the stock price continues to strengthen, then don't make any moves. Hold the cards in your hand first and don't rush to play them. When the stock price starts to weaken and can't rise, release the unexpected positive news to continue to push the stock price up. As long as the target market value is achieved and the restrictions and constraints of the gambling agreement are lifted, the next plan is to directly collapse the stock price in one go. Xiao Yu will not give them any opportunity to cash out at a high level. At present, it doesn't matter how the stock price rises. The investors can't withdraw even if they want to, because the lockup period of their stocks has not yet expired. Although there are transfer and financing operations, someone has to pay the bill. If they face a short squeeze, the brokerage will not help them pay the bill. 2 days later, on Friday, May 14th, Prism Technology opened sharply higher by plus 7.64%. In just 17 minutes after the opening, the stock price rose to 14.76 yuan, up plus 20.00% and walked out of the 7-day board market. But the board was broken within 5 minutes, and then it began to plunge, and the time-sharing line was like a waterfall. Prism Technology ushered in the effect of losing money today, because it rose despite the regulation and it was superimposed on Friday. It was afraid of bad news on the weekend, and the funds did not dare to structure. However, after all, it is a popular leader with full attention at the moment, and it did not kill the limit down. At the end of the day, the decline was narrowed to minus 6.18%, the closing price was 11.54 yuan, the market value is 10.016 billion, and it just held the threshold of 10 billion market value. At the same time, Wen Suking also came to Xiao Yu's villa this afternoon to discuss matters. At this moment, Xiao Yu saw that Prism Technology stopped at the 6th board, and immediately called his assistant. Chairman, Yunshu's voice came as soon as the call was connected. Xiao Yu instructed concisely, you start preparing and notify all the directors. I will convene a board meeting in an hour and a half, Yunshu replied. Okay. Xiao Yu hung up the phone and turned to look at Wen Suking, who was sitting on the sofa in the living room and had just arrived at his house. Can you analyze how to predict Zhou Beichuan and others will predict our actual motives and intentions? Wen Suking was thoughtful. After a while, she looked at Xiao Yu and said, it depends on whether the stock price can realize the target price of 30.53 yuan in one go. If this price is blocked, it is very likely that Zhou Beichuan and others are suppressing it. Although this cannot directly conclude that they have accurately understood our intentions, it can be confirmed that they do not want you to remove the constraints and hindrances of the gambling agreement so easily. Makes sense. Xiao Yu nodded after hearing her analysis. I hope the market can be more powerful and push the stock price up in one go, which can save a lot of trouble and time. Wen Suking said, it would be best if it could be pushed up in one go, but you still have to be mentally prepared. And for that the opponent will not let you complete the gambling agreement so easily. Xiao Yu smiled and said, of course, I know and I have a clear idea of this. After discussing the details of the follow-up plan with Wen Suking, it was almost time, so he took a document to the headquarters of Prism Technology. More than an hour later, Xiao Yu arrived at the company. Yunshu walked to his side in small steps and reported as she walked, the meeting has been arranged properly, and the other 6 directors are already present. Xiao Yu nodded without saying anything, handed her a document he brought, and walked towards the meeting room. There are currently 7 members in the board of directors of Prism Technology. Xiao Yu, as the chairman, occupies 1 seat. At the same time, he nominated 3 other directors, and several major shareholders such as Penghu Capital took 3 seats. However, Xiao Yu has absolute say in the board of directors, because he enjoys the right to nominate more than half of the directors. The board of directors has 1 person, 1 vote, and there is no veto power. He has 1 vote, and the 3 directors he nominated have 1 vote each, which is a total of 4 votes. When voting, it is 4-3. In other words, Xiao Yu can pass a resolution on a matter in the board of directors, and his opposition is also 100% impossible. The 3 directors he nominated would vote with him. Those 3 directors would not be stupid enough to go against Xiao Yu, because the first priority of the directors was to be responsible to the shareholders rather than the company first. Xiao Yu was the founder, actual controller and largest shareholder of the company, and he could replace the disobedient directors at any time. Everyone is here. Xiao Yu went straight to the chairman's seat when he entered the meeting room. As soon as he sat down, he looked around at the 6 directors present. His eyes stayed on the director representing Penghu Capital for a moment, then he looked around again and said concisely, Today we will vote on one proposal. At this time, Xiao Yu was very resolute. He had stepped on pits in the past few years, but his growth was also visible to the naked eye. You all should know, or at least have heard, that I have set up a new company, Linghan New Materials, Xiao Yu said in an orderly manner. The proposal is to propose that Prism Technology absorb 51% of Linghan New Materials equity, plan asset reorganization, and consolidate performance after the reorganization. The directors present at the meeting were all surprised, especially the directors representing several investors such as Penghu Capital, who looked at each other in surprise. Xiao Yu did not give them any time to react, and directly said, "Let's vote, raise your hands if you agree." After speaking, Xiao Yu leaned back against the chairman's chair. His expression at this moment did not show any emotional fluctuations, and he only saw his right hand slowly raised. Seeing this, the three directors nominated by Xiao Yu realized that the chairman had no intention of discussing this matter with them at all. Since the decision had been made, there was nothing to say, and they all raised their hands decisively in approval. The other three directors were a little confused. This was not a meeting to discuss, but a notification. That's right, Xiao Yu was not here to discuss with them at all, but just to go through the process, that's all. The director representing Penghu Capital came to his senses, looked at Xiao Yu and said, "Mr. Xiao, isn't this a bit too hasty for such a big thing?" Xiao Yu put his hand down, and the three directors thought he was going to take it back, but Xiao Yu said on the spot, "4 votes in favor, more than half of the votes have been cast, and the proposal has been passed." The three directors were stunned again. They were definitely very upset to be ignored by Xiao Yu, but Xiao Yu didn't care what they thought at all. Their approval, opposition or abstention could not change the established fact that the proposal would be passed. Xiao Yu tilted his head to glance at Yunshu, the assistant who was in charge of the meeting, and ordered, "Sort out the results of this board of directors resolution and announce it to the public at 8 o'clock in the evening." Yunshu nodded, "Okay, Chairman." The process was completed at the speed of light. Xiao Yu was frugal with words and didn't say any more. After the process was over, he stood up and left without saying a word. Chapter 20, Exceeding Expectations. Important announcement. Several external shareholders of the capital side received the news of the voting results of the board of directors, and soon held an internal video conference to discuss with each other. Is he really going to launch a merger and reorganization? What is this guy up to? Zhou Beichuan frowned and fell into deep thought, as if he wanted to figure out Xiao Yu's intentions. At this time, another capital party who attended the meeting said, "It's hard to say. Our relationship with him is not very pleasant. Will he have such good intentions?" The approval of the reorganization proposal does not mean that the reorganization will be successful. It can also fail. Using the benefits of the reorganization to raise the stock price, completing the gambling agreement, and then finding a reason to announce the failure of the reorganization, wouldn't it be killing two birds with one stone? Those who play capital operations are also very clear about the game of mergers and reorganizations of listed companies, and they have played such capital operations before, playing the game of mergers and reorganizations to make a foolish reorganization in the stock market, and after the stock price soars and sells, they will reversely fail the reorganization. The investor who said this was a middle-aged man, and he looked like an old fox. He added, "In my opinion, he just wants to complete the gambling agreement, not really want Linghan New Materials to be restructured, otherwise there is no reason for this company to exist." Another person from the investment agency said, "But no matter what, the stock price going up is not bad for us." Zhou Beichuan shook his head and said in a deep voice, "If this is the case, it is not unacceptable. What I am worried about is that without the constraints of the gambling agreement, Prism Technology will be completely under his control. If he retaliates, the stock price may go up or fall down. It may take several years or even more than 10 years to build a company well, but it only takes 1 month to ruin a company, or even less than 1 month." The person from the investment agency said immediately, "It shouldn't be the case. Ruining the company is a lose-lose situation, and it will completely offend the capital. He won't get any benefits. This will do more harm than good to him. There is no reason to do this." Zhou Beichuan pondered for a moment, and then said, "What you said is not unreasonable. It's hard for me to draw a conclusion, but this possibility exists and we can't ignore it." Another middle-aged man at a meeting asked, "What's the situation with Linghan New Materials?" Zhou Beichuan said immediately after hearing this, "Speaking of this matter, Xiao Yu's confidentiality is unexpectedly good. My people can't find any useful information at all, and even the employees inside Linghan New Materials are not very clear. Everyone was silent, feeling that this matter was indeed a bit weird, and even suspected that Xiao Yu was playing a trick of covering up the truth and making something out of nothing, just to complete the gambling agreement. Finally, Zhou Beichuan said, "No matter what, we can't let him win the gambling agreement before things are clear." The middle-aged man agreed, "I agree, it won't hurt us if the stock price goes up, just keep the share price of Prism Technology below 30 yuan. After some discussion, Zhou Beichuan and others reached a consensus not to let the share price of Prism Technology exceed the market value of 26.5 billion. The stocks they hold have not been released yet, so they cannot sell them for cash, but they can short sell through margin trading. In addition, the A-share market also has a mechanism for the transfer and financing of restricted stocks, which allows them to lend restricted stocks to others for short selling, which is equivalent to letting the restricted stocks circulate in the market indirectly for a period of time. Because of this, they are fearless. At around 1947 in the evening, Prism Technology issued a heavy announcement. Linzhou Prism Technology Company, Limited intends to purchase the equity of Linghan New Materials Company, Limited through major asset replacement and cash payment, and controls a total of 51% of Linghan New Materials. The main counterparty of this transaction is Linghan New Materials. This transaction is expected to constitute an affiliated transaction and a major asset reorganization, but not a reorganization listing. The down-to-earth description of this announcement is, Prism Technology announced that it is officially engaged with Linghan New Materials. The next plan is to set up a banquet, entertain guests, and choose an auspicious day to get married. Prism Technology's popularity index had already dropped to 8th place, but it quickly jumped to 1st place after this announcement. When stockholders saw the news, they forwarded it in their own communication groups. The stock bar comment area also started to discuss it, which made more people search for Prism Technology, and the popularity index soared. The stock bar comment area was already in an uproar. What the hell? Are they really going to merge and reorganize? Are they serious about it? Great news. Great news. I risked my life to buy 3 layers of warehouses at the end of the trading day to bet that the weekend news would exceed expectations. The news came before the weekend, and it exceeded expectations seriously. Buy less, buy less, buy less, buy less. The good news came at a high position that doubled, just to cooperate with a shipment. Shipment? I laughed to death. Do you know the value and growth potential of Linghan New Materials? Do you know the significance of mass production of high-purity quality graphene? A revolutionary new material in the 21st century. Prism Technology acquired 51% of Linghan New Materials, and the market value is just over 10 billion. You call this high-level shipment? Do you have goods to sell? I'll take it. Next week, the number of daily limit boards will be counted. Those who have chips will wake up laughing in their dreams. I jumped out of the car today. I was heavily invested in 7 layers and I dared not spend the weekend. I missed the opportunity to double my money. Can I buy it when the market opens on Monday? Don't think about it. It will be closed at the daily limit on Monday. Unless you have a VIP channel, you may be able to get some orders. Mr. Xiao suddenly got his head. Have you finally learned how to do market value management? Shut up. Still call me Mr. Xiao? Call me Mr. Xiao. No, Mr. Xiao, hurry up. JPG, why do you want me to see this stock? I have deleted it from my watch list. The more I look at it, the angrier I get. I am so angry. I lost 35 points and sold it at 4 yuan. As a result, it exploded like this. I am in a bad mood for the whole year. I couldn't help but leave yesterday after I got my money back. I slapped my thighs. During the weekend, the village did not put Prism Technology in a small black room, because it would be useless to shut it down. It would still have to make up for the increase when it came out. The main reason was that Prism Technology did not violate any regulations. When Su King's team gave Xiao Yu advice behind the scenes, it was impossible for such a low-level mistake to happen. Prism Technology did not apply for a suspension of trading when it announced that it was planning a major asset restructuring, so it will open for normal trading next Monday. On Monday, May 17th, when the stock market opened, Prism Technology was undoubtedly hit by a daily limit, and the opening was directly blocked. The funds on the board reached an astonishing 4.9 billion yuan, but there was no trading volume, and the volume shrank to 14.35 million throughout the day. Penghu Capital and other investment institutions are also paying close attention, and have planned not to let Prism Technology stock price break through the 30.53 yuan price level, but at this time they dare not short sell and smash the market. If you dare to go short at this juncture, your HUD will definitely be smashed by the bulls, and you will definitely be forced to go short, ruthlessly crushed, and you will die if you dare to go short. With such an emotional side, you can only avoid the edge for the time being. In the next 3 days from Tuesday to Thursday, Prism Technology hit 3 daily limit boards in a row without any suspense. On Wednesday, the stock price reached 19.94 yuan, easily breaking through the previous high of 17.85 yuan of Prism Technology, and easily setting a new record high. Then on Thursday, it hit a new high of 23.93 yuan, and the market value soared to 20.771 billion. However, the trading volume on Thursday was 535 million, and the daily limit from Monday to Wednesday was shrinking. This was because several investors of Penghu Capital tried to smash the market on Thursday, throwing 500 million to tentatively suppress it, but it didn't even break the daily limit, and the daily limit was firmly closed. They immediately became honest and dared not to make any more attempts to smash it. Chapter 21, Get some gold from Blue Star for emergency. May 21st, the last trading day of the week arrived as scheduled. Prism Technology went through 5 consecutive boards after the first negative line of the reverse package, and the stock price also opened with a daily limit. The stock price rose to 28.72 yuan. Next week, it only needs to rise by plus 6.30%, and the company's market value will reach 26.5 billion. Xiao Yu can win the gambling agreement and will never be constrained by this thing again. In just 12 days, there were 11 20 centimeters level daily limits, and the stock price rose by plus 597.08%, a nearly 6-fold increase. From the historical lowest price of 3.86 yuan, it has reached a cumulative increase of plus 644.04%. Xiao Yu has been lifted to the god's throne by stockholders and worshipped. 2 weeks ago, stockholders were still cursing in the street. It was too real. As time went on, around 10:03 a.m., the shorts began to smash the market. Zhou Beichuan and his team discussed for a week and decided to launch the strongest attack on Friday, which was today, and they were determined to crash the stock price. Because today is the best time, and if you don't make a move today, it will be very dangerous next Monday. Even if the call auction is held, if the bulls ignite and force a short position during the trading session, the stock price will soar and break through the price of 30.53 yuan, then Xiao Yu will directly win the bet agreement. I didn't dare to make a move in the first few days because I knew that the bulls were invincible at that time, and whoever was short would die. At present, there are 5 daily limit boards in 5 days, with a nearly 1.5-fold increase. The holders have accumulated a huge amount of profit taking. At this time, they will work together to launch the strongest attack and bring up the rhythm, so that the profit-taking funds will follow suit and flee. They will choose to cash in the profits and put them in their pockets. The previous bulls have become shorts that smash the market in an instant. Sure enough, when the shorts directly smashed out a short order of more than 300,000 lots, 900 million selling pressure appeared, which directly frightened the funds on the daily limit board and quickly withdrew the orders. Other holders saw this situation and followed suit. The daily limit of Prism Technology exploded. Immediately afterwards, the stock price began to plunge straight down, diving all the way, and soon dived to the zero axis. The next second it turned green, and continued to dive down, heading straight for the limit down. When the share price of Prism Technology fell to 19.14 and hit the limit down price, those who bought at the limit up price were petrified on the spot, and lost more than 33 points in one day. If the limit down is open tomorrow, it will be a loss of more than 46 points. In 2 days, it was almost halved, because the current limit up and down of the gem is plus or minus 20%. Xiao Yu is also paying close attention to the trend of Prism Technology stock price at this moment. It fluctuated violently during the trading session, performing an epic roller coaster. When the shorts hit the limit down price, it was only 1 minute, and then the bottom fishing funds bought frantically, and the stock price was driven to the red zone and soared to plus 5% in minutes. The shorts exerted their strength again and hit the price underwater by minus 12%. Those who did not copy the limit down saw that it had plunged so much again, so they sold a small position to make a profit. At present, the attention of the whole market is focused on this stock. It is so popular and there are so many people paying attention to it that it is inevitable that some people will come to play with it. You make a move, I make a move, and the stock price is pushed up again. This time it was pulled up to plus 18%, and then it returned to the upper limit, and went straight out of the heaven and earth ceiling. Retail investors who risked their lives to buy the bottom at the lower limit were instantly excited when they saw their buying points, and they said they bought too little. The rise and fall range is 20%. The upper and lower floors can lose 33 points a day, while the lower and upper floors can make 50 points a day. Less than 2 minutes after the return, it was smashed open by the shorts again, and the market was smashed to death. The time-sharing line of Prism technology dived straight and was pressed on the lower limit again, performing a trend of heaven, earth, sky, floor and floor, which can be said to be a thought of heaven and hell. After a while, the bulls launched an attack again, and the lower limit was pried open by funds again, and the time-sharing line rushed up and turned red again. However, this time, the stock fell back just after it turned positive. The momentum was strong, but then it declined. The bears were too aggressive, because they were using the restricted shares to borrow securities to smash the market, which meant that the restricted shares were actually in circulation. They kept smashing the market with the financing system, and they couldn't buy them all. After the second round of counterattack by the bulls failed, they were no longer able to launch a counterattack. At 2:30 in the last trading, the bulls were defeated and finally completely blocked the limit down. Prism Technologies' floor and ceiling plummeted by minus 20.02%, and the stock price closed at 19.14 yuan. The market value shrank to 16.613 billion yuan. The total transaction volume for the whole day was 4.597 billion yuan, and the daily turnover rate was even more terrifying, reaching 72%. For those who bought today, seeing this huge volume in the super large negative line of the floor and ceiling was enough to make them feel cold, and looking at the outrageous turnover rate, they only felt their scalps tingling. Obviously, the heavy blow of the transfer and financing platform would not be able to release such a large amount under normal circumstances, nor would it produce such an exaggerated turnover. The turnover of new shares on the day of listing was not so high. Well, I have seen it, and it is basically certain that it is the work of Zhou Beichuan and his people. At this time, Xiao Yu was on the phone with Wen Suking. Although it is still impossible to determine whether they know our true intentions, it is basically certain that they do not want the stock price to break through 30.53. Today's crazy suppression of the stock price is already obvious. When Suking's voice came, Xiao Yu walked back and forth in the living room for a few steps, sat down on the sofa and answered the phone. It's not a bad thing. At least we have further determined their motives, but they have also invested a lot of money to smash the market. After chatting for a while, they hung up the phone. It is inconvenient to discuss specific important matters and follow-up plans on the phone. It is better to communicate face-to-face for such things. Xiao Yu sat alone in the living room in silence. After a while, he got up and returned to his bedroom, closed and locked the door, and then opened the teleportation star gate. Xiao Yu stepped through the teleportation gate and came to the house rented in Fengquan City, Blue Star. To be on the safe side, and to ensure that Zhou Beichuan and other investors could be forced to sell out in one go, Xiao Yu decided to go to Blue Star to trade in a batch of gold. The plan was also very clear and simple. Earth would go to Africa, which happened to be a continent rich in graphite mines. The trip to Africa was ostensibly to acquire graphite mines, and then the luck was against the sky. The mine he bought was accidentally found to have a large gold mine next to it. In fact, the gold was secretly traded by Xiao Yu from Blue Star. When this news was released, the share price of Prism Technology would go crazy. After all, it was now planning to reorganize and absorb 51% of the equity of Linghan New Materials, and to consolidate its performance with Prism Technology. Gold was very cheap on Blue Star, and trading transactions were calculated by tons. The price of gold per ton was about 50,000 star yuan, which was equivalent to 75,000 yuan according to purchasing power, which was about the same as the price of copper on Earth. But the price of gold on Earth was based on the domestic gold price this month, and the value of 1 ton of gold was 375 million yuan. The spread between the two worlds was an exaggerated 5,000 times. However, Xiao Yu would not mindlessly bring too much gold to Earth, because there is no way to explain it. It is also very troublesome to rationalize and make it visible on Earth. If the amount is too large, it can only be attributed to the discovery of a gold mine. On Earth, a reserve of hundreds of tons is considered a super large gold mine. You have to go abroad to buy mines, and you have to discover mines before buying them, and then you have to mine and refine them. In this process, Xiao Yu cannot get a few tons at a time, because it is not in line with common sense. If you want to make money, it is the most efficient to trade black technology, and it is relatively easier and more worry-free. On Earth, a technological monopoly advantage is formed, and the profit from selling high-tech products is much faster than gold, and it can be made openly. At present, Xiao Yu decided to spend some time to get some gold to ensure that he can defeat Zhou Beichuan and his team in this battle. The other party is now using prism technology to suppress the stock price and prevent it from realizing the target market value of 26.5 billion. Xiao Yu is happy to see it. Let them open more short orders, and then directly blow them up, making them lose all their money. Then induce them to buy more, and then reverse the situation to crash the stock price, so that both the long and short positions will suffer huge losses. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 22, There is a time flow difference between the two worlds. At this moment, Xiao Yu was doing something strange. He shuttled back and forth between Blue Star and Earth several times, opened the teleportation star gate and ran to the rental house on Blue Star, waited for a while to record the time, and then opened the teleportation star gate to return to the bedroom of his villa on Earth, and waited for a while to record the time. He repeated this back and forth several times. The speculation is indeed correct, similar to the clock slow effect, but not. The relative time flow rate of the two worlds is different. Xiao Yu looked at the two recorded time node information and compared them. Xiao Yu had already had some doubts after several shuttles between the two worlds. Now it has been confirmed that the relative time flow rate of the two worlds is different, and Xiao Yu calculated and concluded that the relative time flow rate difference is about 500 times with himself as the reference system. That is, with Xiao Yu himself as the reference system, when he came to Blue Star, the time flow rate of Earth was 500 times slower than that of Xiao Yu on Blue Star, and vice versa. When Xiao Yu was on Earth, the time flow rate of Blue Star was 500 times slower than that of Xiao Yu on Earth. But Xiao Yu's own time flow rate is always normal, and the flow rate difference is relative. Assuming that Xiao Yu spends 41 years on Blue Star and then returns to Earth, only 1 month has passed on Earth. So, Boss Liu is probably still not out of Fenquin City. Xiao Yu couldn't help but think of the 500 kilograms of watermelons he traded with Boss Liu some time ago. He returned to Earth not long after the transaction was completed. Xiao Yu couldn't help but look at the teleportation star ring on his wrist and muttered to himself, this thing may be the product of a level 5 civilization, or even above level 5. The teleportation star ring on his wrist is definitely not a product formed by nature. If there are really 7 civilization level classification standards, Xiao Yu feels that the teleportation star ring on his wrist was created by a civilization that is at least above level 5. When an intelligent civilization reaches level 5, its intelligent creatures can completely break away from three-dimensional space and realize free interaction in multi-dimensional space. When civilization reaches this level, it no longer needs to consider energy issues. The basic properties of time and space are the areas that level 5 civilization needs to develop. For example, time and space folding and high-dimensional space are the technical singularities of level 5 civilization. Earth civilization is currently at level 0.7, not even level 1 civilization, because the most representative technology singularity of level 1 civilization, controlled nuclear fusion, has not been completed, and all the energy of the Earth has not been utilized. As for the Blue Star civilization, according to this evaluation standard, Xiao Yu's current judgment should be between the range above level 1 civilization and below level 2 civilization. Moreover, the environment of Blue Star has obviously deteriorated, and it seems to have encountered some kind of big filter challenge, which has led to its current appearance. In the past, the atmosphere of Blue Star must have been breathed directly without wearing a breathing mask, and it should be similar to the atmospheric environment of the Earth. However, what confuses Xiao Yu the most is the teleportation star ring in his hand. Why did it fall on him? Could it be that in the distant future, the human civilization on Earth is becoming more and more powerful? After millions, Tens of millions, or even hundreds of millions of years, human civilization at that time has developed to at least the level of level 5 civilization, and has penetrated the basic nature of time and space, and can send this teleportation star ring to me through high-dimensional space interference? Xiao Yu suddenly had such a conjecture, because he thought of a science fiction movie called Interstellar that was released 7 years ago. In the plot of the movie, the artificial wormhole near the orbit of Saturn was placed there by future humans. They crossed the dimensions of time and space, broke through the constraints of the law of causality, and guided their ancestors to save themselves and find a new home. The scene at the end of the movie, where the male protagonist enters the 5-dimensional space and unfolds in the 3-dimensional space-time, was also arranged by future humans. The future humans in the movie successfully guided their ancestors to save themselves, so humans survived. The future human descendants gradually developed to the height of the 5th-level civilization, and then interfered from the high-dimensional space to place an artificial wormhole near the orbit of Saturn to form a closed loop. Could it be that the future descendants who have continued for n generations have developed to the height of the 5th-level civilization or above, and they sent this bracelet to me, the super-ancient ancestor? Then what is the purpose of sending the star ring to me? Do you want me to save the world? Or do you want me to lead mankind to break out of the earth and expand to the sea of stars in the universe? Which generation of young people in the future dares to give you such a high strength from your ancestors billions of years ago? At this moment, Xiao Yu was suspicious, stunned, talking to himself, and talking like crazy. Just some unfounded speculation. Don't take it seriously. Force yourself to such a high strength? There's no need, Xiao Yu muttered and shook his head, throwing away all these messy thoughts, and quickly stopped thinking. This kind of thing really can't be thought about carefully, because it's really terrifying. Xiao Yu suddenly understood and figured it out. This teleportation star ring on his wrist, the existence that created it doesn't matter whether it is the future n generations of human civilization or non-human civilization. It doesn't matter whether this existence is kind or malicious. Xiao Yu knows very well that as an ordinary carbon-based life form, a 7.62 mm caliber peanut can make him ascend to heaven on the spot. Facing that level of existence, if the other party is malicious, Xiao Yu thinks there is nothing to say, just lie down and start, because it is ridiculous for an ant to show its teeth in front of an elephant. But if the existence that created the teleportation star ring is kind, or has no good intentions but no malice, then there is no worry. In short, no matter what, as long as this teleportation ring can be used for oneself, then use it, and then realize one's own demands. Xiao Yu's current demands are very simple. He just wants to quietly shuttle between the two worlds of Blue Star and Earth as a porter to develop his own career. Now he is looking for a place to retaliate against Zhou Beichuan and other investors who have cheated him. Let's get a few dozen tons of gold first. Xiao Yu stopped thinking about those illusory things and immediately used the holographic smart bracelet to check the gold price here on the Blue Star internet. Gold does not have a currency attributes here, but is classified as industrial metals and is a common industrial raw material. The latest price shows that 1 ton of gold on Blue Star sells for 52,700 star yuan. Xiao Yu calculated that the gold mines on the Earth side are considered medium-sized and large gold mines if they are more than 30 tons, and those above 100 tons are considered super-large gold mines. Then let's get about 35 tons. Xiao Yu nodded secretly and made a decision immediately. At the current gold price on Blue Star, 35 tons only need 1.85 million star yuan to buy. On Earth, according to the current gold price on Earth, it can be worth about 13.2 billion yuan. Xiao Yu now has less than 100,000 star yuan left, but it is not difficult for him to get star yuan. After a moment, he turned on the teleportation star ring and determined the coordinates of the grain storage warehouse in Linsao City on Earth. Before that, he instructed the housekeeper Qin Yu to purchase a batch of grain, including frozen meat, eggs, watermelons, apples, rice and other grains. It doesn't cost much to buy these agricultural products on Earth. When they are transferred to the Blue Star world, they can be sold at sky-high prices at the price of scarce luxury goods. The key is that the liquidity is very good, and they can be sold quickly and there is no problem of inventory backlog. In the following period of time, Xiao Yu personally transformed into a frontline salesperson and began to develop business on Blue Star. Confirming that the relative time flow rate of the two worlds is different, Xiao Yu did not continue to look for Boss Liu, because the timeline on Blue Star had just traded 500 kilograms of watermelons not long ago. And Xiao Yu didn't want to have only Boss Liu as a buyer, so he still had to expand new customers. Time flies, and Xiao Yu has spent 21 Blue Star days on Blue Star without realizing it. Blue Star rotates slower than Earth, and a sunlight cycle takes 36 hours. 21 Blue Star days equal 31.5 Earth days, which is equivalent to 1 month on Earth. However, the time flow rate of the two worlds is 500 times different, and relative to Xiao Yu as the reference system, when he is in one world, the relative time flow rate of the other world will be 500 times slower. In other words, Xiao Yu has been on Blue Star for 21 Blue Star days, but only about 1.5 hours have passed on Earth. During this time on Blue Star, Xiao Yu traveled to many cities to discuss business and sell products. He did not ship a large number of products in Fenquin City because he did not want to attract too much attention. Anyway, when he was on Blue Star, the time flow rate on Earth was 500 times slower, so Xiao Yu was not in a hurry. Chapter 23, Gold is secured, return to Earth to Africa. Today, Xiao Yu, who had been out doing business in person, returned to Fenquin City and came to a new residence. During this period of time, he was selling various food products, and Xingyun was making a lot of money. 3 days ago, he had already bought a house in Fenquin City, which was more convenient. After returning to the house, Xiao Yu took off his breathing mask and lay down on the sofa in the living room, looking very tired. After a while, I still have to set up a company here on Blue Star. Xiao Yu has been running business in person during this period, and it is really tiring to travel to many cities. In the future, I will definitely set up a company here on Blue Star, and let the company's employees do the frontline business. I only need to move the food from the Earth to the warehouse on Blue Star, and I don't need to go to the front line to sell it myself. Fortunately, food-related products are not worried about selling on Blue Star at all. The liquidity is too good and the cash conversion ability is too strong. Xiao Yu opened the holographic bracelet to check 2 anonymous bank accounts. The balances were 51.0281 million star yuan and 33.675 million star yuan, totaling 84.7031 million star yuan. This money comes so easily, as easy as breathing. Xiao Yu couldn't help but sigh. After a short rest, Xiao Yu contacted the merchants who sold gold. He planned to spend money to purchase 35 tons of gold. The gold produced on Blue Star is the same as steel coils on Earth. It's just that it's called gold coils here. After all, gold is just an ordinary industrial metal raw material on Blue Star. Xiao Yu asked the merchants to refine the gold into pure gold first, without other impurities. This requirement is to prevent other substances from the Blue Star world from being brought to Earth. For example, natural superconducting ore. There may be other unknown substances that do not exist on Earth. After all, Blue Star mixed with black holes billions of years ago. It would be troublesome to make sensational news on Earth. After purification, impurities are added. These impurities are added according to Xiao Yu's requirements, that is, a small amount of gold-associated elements, because there is very little pure gold in nature. Purification is first carried out to avoid the unique special substances on the blue planet from being mixed in it. Adding impurities after purification is more in line with natural gold. Xiao Yu also requires merchants to grind the gold into gold sand powder particles of different sizes and rules. It should be like natural gold sand, with large or small pieces, but not exactly the same. At the same time, the maximum mass of a single piece of gold cannot exceed 10 kilograms. This series of requirements are all to better meet the artificial creation of natural gold mines on the Earth. It is easier to directly use a single piece of gold of a ton, but Xiao Yu has not forgotten that the largest single piece of natural gold known to be found on the Earth is only about 60 kilograms. And the blue planet is very exaggerated. In some areas, there are mountains made of real gold. It is too scary to bring a single piece of gold of a ton to the Earth and then expose it. It will definitely be on the news. Xiao Yu does not want to be overly concerned. The merchant didn't understand why the customer would have such a strange request, but it didn't matter. The merchant only cared about whether the deal could be concluded and whether the customer's requirements could be met. Because Xiao Yu offered a very generous price, the market price of 35 tons of gold on Blue Star was 1.85 million star yuan, but Xiao Yu offered a price of 3 million star yuan. The extra premium was to meet his extra requirements for processing. The merchant was overjoyed and said that he would provide thoughtful service. The merchant didn't care what the customer did with the gold. Gold was not a controlled item on Blue Star. Just like graphene materials, as long as you have money and are willing to buy and sell, no one would care what you do with it. Time passed in a flash, and another 8 Blue Star days passed. The merchant completed the delivery of the 35 tons of gold purchased by Xiao Yu 8 days later, Blue Star Day, and sent it to the warehouse designated by Xiao Yu in Fenquin City. Tisk, tisk, tisk. It's like only using 1,500 kilograms of watermelon to exchange for 35 tons of gold. Xiao Yu was alone in the warehouse at the moment. He grabbed a handful of gold sand, loosened his 5 fingers and watched the gold sand particles flow and fall from the gaps between his fingers. If these 35 tons of gold were brought to Earth, it would be an astronomical figure worth 13.2 billion yuan. Xiao Yu clapped his hands, patted off the gold sand on his hands, put away his thoughts and prepared to implement the next plan. To get these gold to Earth, it would take some time to properly lay out on Earth. Xiao Yu has already determined the specific plan, to buy a mine in Africa, preferably an abandoned gold mine that others think is impossible to produce gold, and take it over at a low price. Opening the teleportation stargate again, Xiao Yu returned to the bedroom of his villa on Earth. Next, he plans to go to Africa in person and take several employees of Linghan New Materials Company on a business trip abroad. The idea has been made clear, that is, to go to Africa to look for graphite mines. Linghan New Materials has now announced that it has mastered the unique technology for preparing high-purity graphene materials. The purification and preparation of graphene definitely requires graphite ore, and Africa is a continent rich in graphite ore. It is reasonable to go to Africa to contract graphite mines. However, luck was bursting, and the contracted mine actually discovered a gold mine, and it was acquired at a very low price. Xiao Yu did not plan to put this so-called gold mine under the name of Prism Technology, but went to buy the mine in the name of Linghan New Materials. Of course, it belongs to the assets under the name of Linghan New Materials, but it must be good for the share price of Prism Technology. Because it has been announced that it is planning a reorganization, Prism Technology will absorb 51% of Linghan New Materials shares in consolidate financial statements. If it is placed under the name of Prism Technology, Zhou Beichuan and several other investment institutions will also have shares. At that time, it will be difficult to let them cut off blood. After all, this is a real asset, and it will have strong support when the subsequent plan suppresses the stock price. It would be different if it was put under the name of Linghan New Materials. If it was announced that the merger and reorganization failed due to other factors, Zhou Beichuan and his team would not get a penny. Uncle Qin, help me book a few tickets to Africa. Xiao Yu called the housekeeper Qin Yu and asked him to arrange the overseas affairs. The next period of time was to go to Africa to investigate, select sites, and buy mines. On the weekend of May 23, Xiao Yu selected a group of people from Linghan New Materials Company and took them directly abroad. Prism Technology also told assistant Yun Shu that she was in charge of the company's affairs, so Xiao Yu had nothing to worry about. This time, it was planned to stay in Africa for more than a month, because this matter needed to be arranged, and it would take a lot of thought and time to complete it. This was all to make the gold on Blue Star appear on Earth smoothly and reasonably, and to see the light of the situation of discovering gold mines. With this so-called gold mine, Linghan New Materials is not short of funds. 30 tons of gold can be converted into tens of billions of funds. During the days when Xiao Yu was making plans in Africa, the long-short game in the secondary market of his own company stocks in China was also quite fierce. After the stock price hit a record high of 28.72 yuan, it was once suppressed to half-cut price by short sellers led by several investors of Penghu Capital, and the lowest price was once killed to 13.26 yuan. However, the bulls are not weak either. The stock price has very strong support at the position of 15 yuan, and the long and short sides are peaking back and forth. Now there are mainly two logics that give huge confidence support. One is that Linghan New Materials and Prism Technology have the same boss, which is a related transaction, so shareholders firmly believe that the reorganization will definitely succeed. The second is that retail investors began to discuss the gambling agreement between Xiao Yu and the investors. The stock price has not yet fulfilled the target market value of 26.5 billion, and Xiao Yu has not completed the gambling agreement. How can the market end? Now the market unanimously recognizes that the value of Linghan New Materials is far greater than Prism Technology, and all the funds involved in the game are waiting for the news of the reorganization to land. Unknowingly, more than a month has passed. Xiao Yu's layout in Africa was finally completed. In order to artificially create a gold mine, Xiao Yu had been really painstaking during this period of time, and he could only do it himself, and he had to lay out it secretly, which almost exhausted him. He swore that after getting these 35 tons of gold, he would never do this again. It was really a thankless task. To make money, he could directly trade in Blue Star's black technology, and then naturally turn it into an innovative technology product of his own technology company and sell it on the market. The speed of making money is 10 times or even 100 times faster than directly trading gold. The key is to be able to sell products openly without so many concerns. It is not as troublesome as trading gold anyway. Unless the company becomes a trillion-dollar supergiant in the future, it can directly turn gold into its own cash reserves, which can not only sell in larger quantities, but also without so much trouble. It is also reasonable for a trillion-level supergiant company to have hundreds of tons of gold as cash reserves in the eyes of outsiders. But then again, if it really grows to that scale, there will not be such a big demand. The conclusion is that it is okay to have some gold for emergencies, but it is totally unnecessary to trade in it on a large scale. Chapter 24, News of the discovery of a gold mine spreads rapidly. Somewhere in Africa, at 7 a.m. on Friday, July 9th, local time, Xiao Yu stayed in a room, with a piece of shiny gold nugget on the table in front of him, slightly larger than half a red brick used to build the wall. This piece of gold looks like natural gold nugget, but it is actually processed and made into regular natural gold, and there are other associated elements in it. Xiao Yu did not directly pour out the entire 30 tons of gold, and he alone could not let others know, which was too difficult. However, after having the gold mined for endorsement, some special separation control rules were formulated, and the details of each other's work were unknown. This is priceless gold, and it is reasonable to do some special confidentiality. As the boss, Xiao Yu can quietly take out the gold at that time, melt it in the equipment here, and make it into gold nuggets. Doing this is to leave a trace and make everything reasonable. Just come here regularly to collect gold in the future. Coming here regularly to collect gold is equivalent to transferring gold from Blue Star. It is not wrong for the boss to come and take away the priceless things in person. At this moment, Xiao Yu took out his mobile phone to shoot a short video of this gold nugget. He put the gold on the scale and weighed it. The result showed that it weighed 6.85 kilograms. He also took a video. While recording the short video with his mobile phone, Xiao Yu said, "About 6.85 kilograms, this gold nugget weighs more than 13 pounds. This business trip to Africa was a bit lucky. I wanted to look for some graphite mines, but I unexpectedly acquired a gold mine at a low price." During this period, the professional team has initially explored and estimated that the reserve should be no less than 13.5 tons. The specific amount needs further data. It was like the real thing, and Xiao Yu's acting skills were also full. After the short video material was recorded, Xiao Yu glanced at the current time and roughly estimated that it should be around 12 noon in China. Today is still Friday, the last trading day of the A-share market, and it is also closed at noon at this moment. Xiao Yu deliberately chose this time window. He planned to release the news that Linghan New Materials had discovered a gold mine, use the lunch break to ferment it, and then cooperate with the next 2 days of the weekend to further ferment it. After opening the short video and playing it once, Xiao Yu confirmed that there was no problem, and then decisively posted it to his personal Weibo account. Before posting it, he also called Wen Suking and told her about the discovery of the gold mine, asking her to quickly ask the team to write a short essay to help the fermentation speed. Wen Suking was very surprised by this matter. She didn't expect Xiao Yu's luck to be so great. He found a gold mine at this juncture. Wen Suking felt that he was like a god, but she didn't think of the truth, because the truth was too outrageous. Xiao Yu was worried that his Weibo account had too few followers and it would ferment a little slowly. For the sake of safety, he still had to ask Wen Suking to post some short essays to cooperate, to ensure that most people in the capital market would know this information in about half an hour to an hour. This time, the reserves of at least 13.5 tons will be reported first. After the weekend, when the news ferments, it will be reported that the further proven reserves are far more than 13.5 tons, but more than 30 tons. That news is seriously beyond expectations. Prism technology will definitely open at the daily limit next Monday. Half an hour later, a rumor was spreading like wildfire in the stock market in China. It was rumored that Xiao Yu took people from Linghan New Materials Company to Africa to purchase graphite mines, and unexpectedly bought a large amount of gold at a very low price. The news that Xiao Yu bought a gold mine at a low price in Africa spread quickly, and the comment area of Prism Technology stock bar exploded. "Fuck, I regret not buying Prism Technology in the early trading. It went straight up in the afternoon. It has been put on the daily limit order. I don't know if it can be bought in the afternoon opening." So, what happened? There was a sudden major positive news. Linghan New Materials accidentally bought a gold mine in Africa. Ha ha ha. Fortunately I got on the train in the morning. The essays nowadays are outrageous enough. Can't you use some logic when making up stories? I thought so at first, until I saw Mr. Zio's Weibo and quickly put on the daily limit order. This is really true. Mr. Zio posted a Weibo. Go and see for yourself. Fuck. Nearly 7 kilograms of nugget gold. Did they really get a gold mine at a low price? Mr. Zio posted a short video on Weibo, and it shows that the location is in Africa, with 13.5 tons of gold reserves. This is a big positive news. Buy it quickly. According to the current gold price, it must be at least 5 billion. I didn't expect such a big positive news. Now the time, place and people are right. The technical pattern will also change, and there is no suspense about the upward breakthrough. As the news fermented at noon, the popularity of Prism Technology stock suddenly soared. Before the afternoon opening, it rushed to the top of the popularity list of individual stocks in the two cities, which shows how high the attention is. The popularity of this stock has been declining all the way, and even fell out of the top 10 of the popularity list. As the saying goes, an outdated old demon is worse than a dog. As soon as this news fermented at noon, Prism Technology's popularity once again returned to the top and quickly reached the top. When the market opened in the afternoon, as expected, the share price of Prism Technology soared straight up like pulling onions from dry land. Funds were frantically scrambling for shares. The share price also rushed to 24.56 yuan in seconds, rising plus 19.98% to hit the daily limit, and the market value rose to 21.318 billion. Just when everyone thought that the daily limit would be directly closed with reduced volume, the daily limit was about 10 minutes, and suddenly funds began to smash the market. And these funds that smashed the market were several shorts from Penghu Capital. This time they hit hard again, because if the daily limit was allowed to come out today, all the funds in the market would unanimously agree that they would break through and take the second wave of the main upward wave. Then they couldn't suppress it. The huge amount of selling broke the daily limit of Prism Technology, which made many funds feel confused, and many stockholders were full of question marks. Big funds are smashing the market and running away, right? In the following period of time, there was a huge divergence in the market. And the long and short sides fought again. The shorts were determined to smash the market, but the longs were also very strong. There were many top speculators who also came in to participate in the long position. The trading volume and turnover rate on the market were soaring. After the limit up of Prism Technology was blown up, it was closed again, and then it was blown up again, over and over again. As the saying goes, a big monster comes out of a bad board. Just do it and beat the short dogs. A retail investor hesitated for a long time and decided to follow the trend and do 2 layers. Near the end of the trading day, the bulls had a slight advantage and closed the board with difficulty. After a bad board, Prism Technology's full-day trading volume increased significantly to 3.169 billion. At the same time, Xiao Yu, who was far away in Africa, also looked at the stock price trend of Prism Technology after the market. He was very satisfied with the limit up and closing. 2.5 hours later, he also set off for home. Everything here has been arranged properly, and I can go back. I can come here regularly in the future. Chapter 25, The Opponent Panics. At the same time, Zhou Beichuan and others also learned that Linghan New Materials had an unexpectedly good harvest in Africa and had acquired a gold mine at a low price. Zhou Beichuan couldn't help cursing in his heart. What a bad luck. On Saturday morning, Xiao Yu returned to his villa in Linsao City. The housekeeper Qin Yu came with a document and handed it to Xiao Yu. This is the material that Assistant Yun sent this morning. Xiao Yu took it and opened it. The material sent by Yun Shu was about the data of margin trading and securities lending of Prism Technology. This was something Xiao Yu had called her in advance before he got on the plane in Africa. They really did sell securities and smash the market yesterday. Xiao Yu looked at the material and thought to himself that it was impossible for the funds for short-selling arbitrage to be shorted at that time yesterday, so it was not difficult to judge that it was Zhou Beichuan and others. No one else would do this except them. After thinking for a moment, Xiao Yu immediately decided to adjust the plan slightly. He originally planned to announce the news on the weekend. The gold mine reserves far exceeded expectations. But now he decided to release the news during the trading session on Monday, with the purpose of letting several short sellers of Penghu Capital continue to increase their short orders next Monday, because even if the stock price hits a new high next Monday, the upper limit price is 29.47 yuan, not yet 30.53 yuan. So the opponent must have the motivation to increase short orders and smash the market, because next Monday is the last chance. But if the news that exceeds expectations is released at the weekend, they will definitely not dare to add short orders, and may even be afraid of being forced to short and face huge losses, and may stop losses and start to close the short orders in their hands. Xiao Yu wanted to open more short orders with him, and then blow them up, spit out all the short profits earned before, and further expand the losses. After some consideration, Xiao Yu decided to suppress the news first, let them open more short orders first, and then suddenly release the news during the lunch break. After the weekend, Monday, July 12th. Today, Prism Technology opened with a daily limit, and the stock price rose to 29.47 yuan, an increase of plus 19.99%, breaking the previous high of 28.72 yuan to set a new historical high, and the company's market value rose to 25.579 billion. Xiao Yu was paying attention to the market trend. The market opened at 9:30, and the daily limit was locked. After 5 or 6 minutes, a large amount of funds appeared, and the daily limit was blown up. At one point, the market price plunged nearly 10 percentage points. There were several shorts such as Penghu Capital that opened and smashed the market, and there were funds that were released from the previous high. In addition, there were short-term profit-taking orders that fled. The selling pressure formed by the 3-in-1 blew up the daily limit. The morning market closed at 11:30, and the increase of Prism Technology was fixed at plus 12.82%. At this moment, Xiao Yu saw that some stockholders were asking the secretary of Prism Technology about the discovery of gold mines in Ling and new materials. He adjusted his strategy flexibly again. He originally planned to post on Weibo, but letting the company's secretary answer investors online would spread the news faster and more reliably. Xiao Yu immediately called Yunshu and said, "I saw an investor asking the company's secretary about the gold mine online. You should arrange for the secretary to reply. The latest news is that the gold mine has a reserve of more than 30 tons. It is a large gold mine." Yunshu on the other side of the phone was stunned for a moment and couldn't help saying, "Isn't it 13.5 tons? Xiao Yu said calmly, "That was last week's data. This is the data given in the latest assessment report. Just do what I say." Hearing this, Yunshu replied, "Okay, I'll arrange it right away." At about 12:17, the secretary of Prism Technology responded to investors' inquiries online. The latest news is that the gold mine reserves far exceeded expectations, not less than 30 tons. As soon as this news came out, investors couldn't sit still. Wow! Exceeded expectations. Seriously exceeded expectations. Epic exceeded expectations. Hurry up and hit back. All kinds of funds in the market who got the news placed orders in advance, and even some well-known hot money came to grab shares. These big funds valued Prism Technology or Xiao Yu for really understanding market expectation management. They were very good at it. There were always news stimulations that exceeded expectations. Even if the gold mine did not have 30 tons, the atmosphere was set off, and the funds were willing to hype it up. The most important thing is that the big funds saw that Xiao Yu was doing market expectation management, and he was very good at it. There is a high probability that there will continue to be new news stimulations tomorrow, so the funds are willing to play and bet on news tomorrow. As long as there are continuous news stimulations that exceed expectations, the stock price will continue to rush up. Sure enough, at the opening of the afternoon, the disagreement turned into consensus. The stock price of Prism Technology was forced to return to the daily limit. This time, the amount of funds on the board reached more than 3.9 billion, which directly blocked the daily limit. "Okay, don't smash it." At the same time, a trader in the trading room shouted immediately. This trading team was surprisingly under Penghu Capital. Seeing this market situation, The trader dare not continue to open short orders to smash the market, because if there is another daily limit tomorrow, all the profits from the short orders accumulated before will be lost and there will be a relatively large loss. If the second wave of the main upward wave really takes place, it will really be pulled up and face huge losses, and even a warehouse explosion is not impossible. The profit of shorting is limited and will not exceed 100%, because the stock price will not fall below zero, but the loss of shorting is theoretically unlimited, because the stock price can theoretically rise indefinitely. The trader hurried to Zhou Beichuan to report the situation and let the boss make a decision, but he did not dare to make a decision. As of the close, Prism Technologies' after-hours daily limit ended, and today's trading volume was reduced to 1.7 billion, because the shorts did not smash the market later and did not dare to smash the market. Seeing this situation, Zhou Beichuan held an emergency meeting with several other investors to discuss. Everyone realized that the situation was not good. It was impossible to prevent Prism Technologies' market value from breaking through 26.5 billion. Xiao Yu won the bet agreement. There was almost no suspense now. They also had to admit that Xiao Yu's gold mine was like a god's help, which was really unpredictable. After some discussion, Zhou Beichuan and the others decided to meet with Xiao Yu. They had no choice but to meet, because they could no longer prevent Xiao Yu from winning the bet agreement. Tomorrow's stock price only needed to rise by plus 3.56% during the day to realize the target market value. In reality, there was basically no suspense that the stock price would open at the daily limit tomorrow. If it continued to rise, their short orders would lose money. If it continued to rise, it would really be blown up. The next day, Tuesday, July 13th, at 9:25 in the morning, the call auction ended. Prism Technology opened at 35.36 yuan, opening plus 19.99% higher and hitting the daily limit, achieving 3 consecutive daily limits. The stock price hit a new historical high, and the company's market value rose to 30.692 billion. Xiao Yu won the bet agreement with capital. The company's current market value has far exceeded the 26.5 billion agreed in the agreement. Xiao Yu successfully realized the 26.5 billion target market value within 3 years of listing. At this time, the housekeeper Qin Yu walked towards Xiao Yu and said, "Sir, Zhou Beichuan has arrived in Linzhou City. He hopes to make an appointment to meet you today. He said that he has important matters to discuss with you." Hearing this, Xiao Yu couldn't help but smile. He knew that the other party was anxious and couldn't sit still. Most likely, he opened too many short orders and was now forced to sell short by the market, so he was panicking. Xiao Yu put away his smile and said calmly, "Reply to the letter. It's clear. Let him come to see me in the afternoon." Qin Yu nodded. "Okay." The housekeeper immediately went to reply and convey Xiao Yu's meaning. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.